Hello, everyone. This is Bob Ross. Today, we're going to do a nice painting. No, this is Denante Farmer, the Strangest Fruit Podcast, second season, and we're here with the wonderful Lori Rothschild. And is there another name that I need to add on there?
My husband's name. He likes me to use it sometimes. It's Lori Rothschild Ansaldi. So okay. I am a married lady. My maiden name is Rothschild, and you don't drop Rothschild.
Got you, bro. Put it in there. I don't want to, Hey.
A podcast called Strangest Fruit.
So, tell me about yourself, and I'll tell you about me.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm more interested in your story than... I don't think my story is that interesting, to be honest.
Well, we'll hear your story first. Okay. Mine's is... it's the same old story over and over again that everybody's heard.
I believe that. Born and raised in New York, from Long Island, New York. Got into television production right after college. Wanted to be in entertainment. Didn't know where I wanted to be, quite frankly. And I ended up landing a position at the Discovery Channel. And I started a little network back at Discovery called the Travel Channel. I was a production coordinator there when they first bought the network.
Oh, you started the Travel Channel?
Mm-hmm.
I love the Travel Channel. I used to watch that when I was not going to say when I was a kid, but I used to watch it.
You can say it was a kid, because I was a kid when I started there.
Right, yeah. It was either the Travel Channel, Jeff Gerwin, or the Crocodile Hunter. So you add up those years right there.
Well, I appreciate you watching us back in the day, but it was this tiny little network that Discovery purchased, and they needed the first, lines of staff to come in and start building a network. So I was I was very, very blessed to be chosen to be on that team. And that started like my entire career in unscripted television. I went from Travel Channel to Discovery Channel, did a bunch of projects there. That's where I became an executive producer. I sort of grew through the ranks. I was there for 13 years. And then in 2010, I moved to Los Angeles to open a production company out here. It was an Australian and Canadian-based production company opening a Los Angeles office, and I was scouted to do that, which was really incredibly fun. I always say that television production, and I think most jobs probably feel this way, it's kind of like you're building a toolbox. In entertainment, you don't really know what you want to be, and people will say, I'm not sure, maybe I want to be in film, maybe I want to be in reality, maybe I want to be in audio or animation. And I think that I had the unique opportunity of building a toolbox around the people that gave me the ability to sort of watch what they did. So I kind of built my toolbox by coming and opening that production company. I was able to understand what it's like to build out, places like we're in right now, putting edit bays together, staffing, and then developing content. And then the creative sort of kicks in from there.
Let's go back even further.
Yeah, of course.
Did you have this creative thought as a child? What was your childhood like?
I've always been a creative thinker, and I've always been a creative person in general. I come from a family that believed in education. So to say I wanted to be an artist, my dad would sort of be like, cocking his head a little strange, because he's like, I've, sort of worked my whole life. But my dad was a cop. So I grew up around law enforcement my entire life. My mom actually worked at JFK Airport for a long time. And so I was like in the middle of like law enforcement and aviation and travel. It was like this weird, like little thing. Yeah. But it was always, creativity was definitely something that my parents were fine with. It wasn't like they were like, no, you have to be a lawyer or a doctor or something like that. But there was this sort of drive for education from myself that I really kind of aspired to be. So when I started, even in high school, I remember doing production there, like plays and things like that. But I was always behind the scenes, never in front of a camera. And I really liked the business. I kind of wanted to be in the business of entertainment. That's what I thought I wanted to do. And that was because I had a cousin that worked at Columbia Pictures. And I always, she went into Manhattan.
Yeah.
You know, we lived on Long Island, and she went into and took the train to Manhattan every day.
Shout out to the cousin at Columbia.
Yeah, Sharon Gabriel. She's many years retired, but she worked for Columbia Pictures, and then she worked for, I think it was Mark Goodson Productions, which was a big game show company. And I remembered visiting her in Manhattan in her office when I was in high school. And they had Emmys on the wall. And I was just I want to be in this space. I want to work here, And I had no idea what I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I sort of, in my mind, said, I want to be an entertainment lawyer. I always knew that I wanted to be a creative, and I liked law. That's what I liked. That's what I wanted to do. So I went to, I did 2 years at the State University of New York at Farmingdale. It was a 2-year school back then. It's now a 4-year. So I did my business degree there, associates, and then I went up to University at Buffalo, which is code for Siberia.
Code for Siberia.
Literally. It's 2 feet of snow at all times. Had no idea.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I froze my behind off there for
Made
for
you move
3
a little
years.
faster though, huh?
Yeah. I would say.
Everything's faster.
I would say, or not at all, because you're I ain't going on that. They'll freeze to death. But I finished my business degree there and communications with the intent of going to law school. And then I started pre-law classes at UB at Buffalo. And I loved being in a law library, but I hated reading. I hated writing and doing, I think I was taking a torts class or something as my pre-law class. And it was just a lot of writing and reading. And I was just wait a minute, this isn't what I really want to do. And I want to be careful now, because if I commit to law school, that's 3 years of my life that I'm going to, not use in other pursuits. So I ended up coming home, and I remember telling my dad that I decided that I'm not going to do law school and that I wanted to work in entertainment. And I'll never forget it. He actually had these total New York cop from Brooklyn, had these mirrored dark sunglasses sitting on our kitchen table, and he pushed them down on his nose and he said, "You're going to be poor for the rest of your life." So
that's what your dad
my dad, literally, I have a Jewish father. I was just so I literally at that moment, I just knew that I had to prove him wrong. I had to prove my dad wrong, because I really wanted to stay on a course that I was just going to be happy. I had this idea, and I still do. It's still a mantra of mine, is that if you love what you do, you never work. You never work. I never go to work. I come to have fun with my friends, and I get to make TV all day. How cool is that, right? So that was really my mantra, is I just want to love what I do, because I want to do it for a long time and I want to be successful at it. So, and then years and years later, Travel Channel, I'm working at the Travel Channel, and I was the executive producer for a show called the World Poker Tour, which was televised poker on the Travel Channel for years. And I flew my father to Las Vegas. And he was walking around, with his little credentials on, and he's like, "My daughter, she's the executive producer."
My daughter.
Yeah, Long Island, Yeah, he was in Brooklyn too, so he was like, "My daughter's the executive producer."
That's funny as hell.
Yeah, so he was proud in the end. He actually passed away a few years ago from diabetes, but yeah, he was super proud in the end. He didn't care that I was not a lawyer at the end, but it's funny how it dovetails into what I do today, because now I'm doing a lot more in law.
Did you ever sneak up on him sometimes or send him a card "Hey Dad, I love you. Guess what? I'm not broke." Gotcha.
Yeah, he sort of knew. I remember there were little things that he would see, or he would be I don't know, like a car that I would rent, or, that I would jet around for Travel Channel. He didn't know like how production worked. And of course I was traveling the world, I was traveling the world on their dime. I wasn't paying for it.
Right.
He's like, my daughter, she's in China with Samantha Brown. Or, so he kind of had an idea that I kind of made it in television at some point, if this is what, making it in television is, which I'm really proud of my career. I think I've made it, but I'm sure, my dad thought working with Samantha Brown was going to be the epitome of it.
Like, that's it.
Yeah. But there was one of my first jobs, I was an intern. It was my senior year of college. I worked for the Ricky Lake Show. I don't know, you were too young to remember.
Ricky.
Good.
Ricky used to be down in the farmer's market in Inglewood. Shout out Ricky. Like Ricky.
I love Ricky Lake. Yes. And she had this amazing talk show. And in high school, I worked in salons. I used to do nails in a nail salon through high school. That was my job. And I worked for this amazing salon, and the woman who ran it did her hair in Manhattan. So I'm like, wow, you work at the Ricky Lake Show? Can I intern? Can I work for free? Can I do anything there? And so I ended up working there, and I was asked to do, and please don't ever try to find this. I begged people not to find it. Someone has, I know, but there's an episode where they put me on camera it was like, I'm going to dump you. I'm dumping my boyfriend today. It was like that. I mean, that's basically what was the topic of the show that day. And they had me come out with a huge Tonka dump truck and be like, you dumped. That was like my first ever on camera. Don't ever find that clip, I promise. I don't want to ever see it.
It will be sent to you by the end of the day.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. But I remember doing it, and I got fan mail for it. And so they were like, the dump truck girl. I became like that thing. And I remember being on a train coming home from I guess it was from the Ricky Lake Show. I think I was still there, but I was coming home, and it was at Penn Station, and the Madison Square Garden, I think, had a circus or something going on, and there was a lot of kids on the train with me heading back to Long Island, and a little girl goes, "There's the dump truck girl."
Never.
I'm like, that's it.
The dump truck
That's
girl.
it. That's where it ends. Yeah. Yeah.
So you left Ricky Lake because you became the dump truck
No,
girl.
my internship was over, but I never did the dump truck girl thing again because I was like, that's going to follow me.
That was funny right there.
But I did. It was a huge Tonka dump truck. I kind of wanted to bring it. It should be in my office now that I think about it. I should get a big Tonka dump truck.
A dump truck?
Yeah.
You just fill it up with all type of
because it's like that moment, right? It was the first time I was ever on camera.
So who was your favorite? You had Ricky, you had Jenny Jones, you had, of course, Maury. Who else was in there? It was somebody else that
Jerry
was in there.
Springer.
Jerry's just in a lane of his own. Jerry's. You had those major people coming out there.
I mean, again, I think I'm much older than you are, but the first one was the Richard Bey Show.
Didn't see the Richard Bey
Okay,
Show.
the Richard Bey Show, if you can find a clip of that. That was the very first Jerry Springer show that I can remember, and he was the precursor to it all, and he literally would be like what you all know as Jerry Springer. He did it in a small studio, I think in like New Jersey, in like Secaucus or something, and he literally would look into the camera and be like, "Where did they find these people?" Like he just couldn't believe that this was his job. Like he was just like, "Really?" Like they were lunatics. They were all just lunatics.
Done. All his brain
Yeah,
Jerry,
yeah. But Ricky Lake was definitely. I remember watching her, and she was my favorite. But I loved the Richard Bey Show. I would record. I loved it.
So being from New York, I got a question for you because that's where what's her name? What's the judge name? Judge Judy. There we go.
Oh, I love Judge Judy.
Hold on, because we were talking about dogs earlier. And you know how she feels about a certain type of dog.
I don't actually. I don't know anything.
Does
she have a dog issue?
I've watched Judge Judy for years in prison. I love Judge Judy until she got her ass on. Sorry, Judge Judy. This is my
What
opinion.
happened?
She said the entire pit bull breed needs to be just put down.
That's such trash.
She keeps clips on her desk that she shows people like, you had a pit bull, the dog should be put down. And I was like, all right, now I lost love for Judge Judy. Like, all right, whatever.
She's probably. I mean, that's.
She just thinks there's a vicious breed and they should be exterminated. That's
I mean, there's a lot of people that. I mean, that's just, to me, that's racism.
Dog racism.
I mean, it's literally, it's like, it's the owner. It's like, that's where it comes from. It's
right.
No, I love pit bulls. Pit bulls are babies. They're wonderful. They're wonderful. Like, they're such great animals. But I get that a lot because I have German Shepherd. And so a lot of people will say, oh my God, your dog is vicious. I'm like, my dog is far from vicious. My dog protects me. Yeah. I'm not this is not going to sound good, but I'm not a huge fan of the animal kingdom in general.
Which animals?
Mainly shark.
What's wrong with a shark?
I don't like
shark. It's a puppy. It's a baby.
Okay. I saw Jaws when I was 4. That fucked me up, dude. I'm telling you, I saw it when I was Anyway, it ruins. It ruins. I blame it a lot on myself because I've allowed it to ruin my experience with the ocean. Like, I grew up on a beach and I don't go in the ocean. I just don't do it. It scares the life out of me, and I've tried.
You sure there isn't a black man living inside you? Because we don't fuck with the water. Excuse my lady. We don't. Yeah, certain waves.
I've heard that about myself before. I'll tell you. I can go into prisons, but I can't go into the ocean. Yeah. I don't do the ocean. That's not for me. I don't like cats, and I don't like kangaroos. I have a really hard time with those creatures. And I'll tell you, a cat, I don't like animals that hide on you. Dogs run right up to you, and they say hello. Cats, they're in your closet, they're puking in your shoe. It's not for me. These animals are not for me. And don't get me started on a kangaroo. This is the worst creature on the planet.
Because it'll beat you up. Like, it'll stand right in front of you and punch you in the face. Did you see the kangaroo drowning the dog?
Yes.
And dude had to go out there and beat the...
I mean, think about, this is the work of the devil. We have a deer-headed, bouncing, fighting, balancing on my tail.
Rat.
And I put my people in my pocket. I'm done. It's disgusting. Do you know that if a kangaroo is being chased by, another animal, like if they're threatened, and they've got babies in their pouch, they will take their baby and throw the baby devil. Oh, Winnie the Pooh has created Tigger into, or whatever. No, Roo. It's Roo.
I was going to say, Tigger was a tiger.
Tigger's a tiger, Roo. That Roo is a sweet little thing. No, they're terrible creatures.
Well, how do you feel about platypuses then?
I don't like them either.
That's a weird-ass animal, huh?
Weird-ass animal. Catfish. I don't like shipping animals, A cat and a fish. I don't get that.
But catfish, that's a whole fish. But a platypus is a duck.
It's got whiskers.
It's a duck.
Right.
It's a otter. No, what's that thing with the flat tail?
It's an otter, yeah.
No, it's an otter?
It?
Or a beaver.
Oh, a beaver.
It has a beaver's ass, a duck face, and it has a poisonous thing on it. Like, it can poison you.
Anytime you put two animals, and like a deer head and a bounce, and a rat, I'm done. It's not. People find them to be lovely creatures.
No, it's certain stuff that I don't mess with. I don't mess with koalas because koalas are dangerous. They'll kick your ass.
Yeah, and they have venereal diseases or something.
They get like all type of shit in their eyes and stuff. Like, get some gunk out your
syphilis,
eyes.
right? Isn't it like syphilis or something that they?
Can we get a fact check? Do koalas got syphilis?
Yeah, I think they pass syphilis or some sort of disease that you can get from them.
They're awful. But they don't move. Like, they stay in the trees. Like, there's a whole fire going out there, and the koala got burnt, and he just stayed there. I'm like, bro,
yeah, it's stupid.
Get up and move.
Yeah.
But one thing I do love is my dogs.
Dogs are.
But you said something right there. The last but. You let your character defects affect how you feel about sharks.
You're right. I said it's my fault.
It's actually not your fault. How old were you when you watched it? So.
Right, it's my parents' fault.
It's just,
Eileen Rothschild.
Eileen, sorry, it's your fault. But it's.
No, she didn't let me. I snuck down. They were watching it. I was watching it. Right. But I agree with you. It is what you bring to the table with an animal, right? It's your experiences, your trauma, like you said. And that is exactly what I've witnessed with my German Shepherd. If you've had experiences with a breed, or if you've been bitten by a dog, or large dogs intimidate you, or whatever it is, that's on you. It's not my dog, right?
So then you go back to Caesar, and he just simply said, it's a language barrier.
Yeah.
So the person who can't communicate with their dog, or they're having a problem, you're not speaking their language, so of course they're just completely ignoring you.
Right.
And then he says, with the people, if you go and speak to the people, you go to Saudi Arabia.
Right.
And you don't know anything of what they're saying, the way that they treat animals.
Of course.
You have to find some type of common ground to be able to communicate. So I need to learn how to communicate with every single person, learn about every single thing.
That's why I called it racism before. Think about it.
Right.
Judge Judy has no idea about anything about a pit bull, because if she did, she wouldn't say what she said.
Right.
But because she's bringing her own trauma and fear to the table, right? Put that on Jewish people. Put that on black people. Put that on any person of color. It's the same thing.
Correct.
It's learned. It's all learned behavior that we then project.
Right. Question is, humans have the free will to learn.
Right.
But the question is, what are you going to do? What is the action behind it?
Right. That's right.
Oh,
Or
you're a
that
judge. You have this big platform where
Right.
millions and millions and millions upon people
That's right.
view you, and one message, and you're the highest paid judge, so people really want to watch you
Right.
because they want to study where the money goes.
Right.
To project that on a platform so the whole world and all that can see,
Right.
it's like, wow, you just damnated one specific group of animals to
Right.
just, all right, they're done with.
Yeah.
Just imagine if she
insert Donald Trump.
that is a subject right there. It's real tricky.
I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, you can say that about anyone who has a platform.
Right.
And they spread their version, and that's what social media has given everybody a platform, right?
Right.
We're doing it right now. We have a platform that we're using to communicate something, and the larger the megaphone, the bigger the platform, the larger that message gets out into the world. Judge Judy has a responsibility with her platform. She just damned an entire breed of dog just by what she said, right? Same thing with, Donald Trump is the epitome of, disgrace, in my opinion. But, that's the responsibility we all have as we communicate anything into the public.
And it's kind of, he's real forceful with his antics, because you come to me right now, because he's done this before, with the people getting out of prison. I'll let this person out, let this person out, let this person out. And it's kind of like you put people in a chokehold with your antics and your power. It's like I see a lot of celebrities. I got a list of celebrities. I got a whole list where I've seen them, and we talk to the same people.
Yeah.
You will go on social media and defile yourself. You'll defile your people. You'll create so much content and do this, that, and the other based on somebody else's life. Because I know that's not you. We know that's not you. Or you do it for the purpose of, I don't know, to sell your integrity. I call it soul selling. When I see people doing things like that, I say, you're selling your soul for a jelly roll. But what happens when the person that has the power, like Trump or any other president, like we can go back to Bill Clinton.
Right.
You can never get me to go vote for Bill Clinton, his wife, any of that type of stuff.
No.
Why? Because after over 20 years of pushing mass incarceration, Bill Clinton was the one that said, I don't even think we need 3 strikes. We need 1 strike and you're done. The same man that sent a mentally disabled kid to, he went to see. The kid was so gone, he said, when I come back, can I finish my chocolate chip cookies? Mentally incapable of understanding
What was happening?
Having his last meal, and just generation after generation. But when a guy like Trump says, hey, I'll let your family out of prison if you come and vote for me.
Yeah.
What do you think people are going to do?
Yeah. Of course.
Like, you really just forced our hand. Like, all right, you're going to let my family member out of jail. So the powers at be, and then...
And the hypocrisy.
Yeah. And
just the level of hypocrisy.
You've been in the industry for a long time, and it's something that I'm getting into. It's not something that I wanted to get into. When they say you have a certain calling, it's going to lead you that way. My book was written, so I'm just going along with the pages.
Yeah.
And to see people, we have Christopher Stone and Lamont Kellum. These are my brothers. These are my guys. And what a lot of people don't know is that we were once worst enemies. If you look at gang stuff or wherever you want to look at, we're worst enemies. Worst enemies. Like, we're never to get along. You're from this side of the tracks and I'm from this side of the tracks. And it's really heavy into the rap music and stuff. And when I talk to these dudes, and there's a lot of careers that they've helped a lot of men get. There's a lot of people that have reached out to these men and said, oh, you know, this, that, or the other, but there's no follow through. You'll get on Instagram, social media, and post a follow through, but in all actuality, it's all cap.
Yeah.
And it's a slap in the face to these men because it's like, this is the life that we actually live. You just portray it. It's entertaining.
That's right.
You know, but as a person who has years in the industry, how do you not become calloused? How do you not become bitter? How do you not go up to the people's face and tell them, man, you a fake, you a phony, or do like Damon Dash did to what's the guy, Lee Daniels? You owe me $3 million.
Right.
Do I have to really come up here on the stage and put your ass out here as being who you are and knowing the truth? We don't want to be hero killers.
Right.
Like, the world sees you as a hero, but I know the truth behind you.
Yeah.
So how do you combat with that?
By not doing it myself. You can't fix other people and you can't tell people how to live, or, you know, you can just be the example. Again, I don't have a huge platform. You know, I have 20,000 followers or something like that.
20,000 followers. That's funny. That's funny to me.
I mean, that's what I have. I mean, that's what, and then I'm an executive. You know, I'm a mom from Calabasas. I have, you know, I run a television production, you know, company. But, you know, everybody has a platform is basically the message. Everybody. So my teenager all the way to Kim Kardashian, right? It's like, or Ariana Grande. I don't know who's winning at this moment, or it could be Kylie. I don't know who's number one on Instagram these days, but all of it is responsibility to yourself, right? So for me, you know, doing what I do unscripted reality television, which has a connotation to it, right? And there are shows out there that I would gladly watch with a bowl of ice cream that I would never produce, right? I don't need my name associated with adults behaving badly. That's not creating what I wanted to do when I first got into this business, which was documentary television. And I'm telling you this story because it's the same thing for, you know, anyone who gets into whatever job that they're into and they have a platform. It's like, you do it to the best of your ability, but we can't forget to have a moral compass.
Right.
You know, because in my opinion, shows like Black Ink or...
See, that's why I like you. See, she gonna get up here and say what the hell she want to say, and she gonna say it exactly.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna jump over here and I'm gonna get straight to it. This is how I feel.
I mean, to me, it's part of... People know this about me. I'm not afraid to say, you know, I would watch, you know, Love and Hip Hop or... let's just say like Real Housewives or whatever it might be. I watch it, but I could never produce it. And the reason is because I feel like it perpetuates bad behavior. Love and Hip Hop and Black Ink perpetuates a negative black stereotype in this culture. Everyone thinks that that's what black culture is. It's not what black culture is. You know, black culture is the black family that lives next door to me. You know, by making everyone feel like they have, like, you know, these women have big wigs or gold teeth and they're flipping tables or they're punching at each other or whatever they're doing, they're fighting each other. That's not helping create a new conversation around black culture. That's not something I would do. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to be known like that. So yes, I do television true crime shows. I do a lot of them. And really, those are a love letter. If you think about any of the true crime shows that are on ID or Oxygen or some of them on Netflix, whatever, you know, they are a love letter to law enforcement. If you look at it, right? It's someone tragically gets killed and the good guys save the day. That's what people want out of true crime television. That is not a fair depiction of law enforcement.
Right.
And I'm a daughter of one.
Right.
Right? And I have to balance that. That's the reason why, and I'm so grateful that it happened to me the way that it did, that wrongful conviction came as a story to me by mistake. You know, I remember someone sending me the link to the Kevin Keith case back in 2016. And I was doing a show called Murder, She Solved at the time. And it was about women who solved, like, you know, they're the ones that went out and solved a murder because law enforcement wasn't listening to them. So they took it upon themselves and became sleuths or whatever. And she was from Ohio, and she said to me, Lori, I know you like my story, but you have to look at this one. This is a guy named Charles Keith. His brother has been wrongfully convicted of murder, blah, 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 this whole thing. I'm like, remember, daughter of law enforcement, was going to go to law school, working in reality television. And my first instinct at that moment was, everybody in prison says that they are innocent. My first instinct. I had no other thought process around it. And she sent me that link no short of 3 times before I had a day where nothing was on my schedule, and I was able to click it. And from that moment on, I became a criminal justice reform advocate. Is that, you know, was that what she wanted from me? Is that what she was trying to do? No. Was it God's hand in the trajectory of my career? Probably. I believe the universe had a higher being. There's no reason I do what I do. I still don't know why I do what I do. But, you know, I mean, I do. I advocate for a great, not only for wrongfully convicted people, but I'm also very heavily into reentry and working with prisons on that.
Oh, that's something I would like to touch on.
So I think that's why I'm sitting here, other than me hating kangaroos. But anyway, getting back to like the whole platform thing, to me, that's the responsibility we all have. Social media has created that all of us have a voice. And it's really about us, how we use it, you know, and are there people out there that I can't stand listening to because I know better than the public knows about them? That they're not nice people, actors and actresses that I've worked with that are terrible humans? Absolutely. Am I going to shout it out to the world? I don't care. They do it themselves. Karma's a bitch, right? But I just don't want my name associated with it. So my platform and my, you know, what I was going to before about, you know, Black culture, whatever, my company, every project that I choose to do, the filter, if you would, on if it's a big city project or not, is it creating a meaningful conversation with the viewer? What am I trying to project here? What do I want them to think about as they watch it? It's a medium. It's a piece of art form. That's what I got into this business was about. It's really about documentary television and culture, right? And the Travel Channel. I like exploring culture. And so a couple examples. I did a show on John Wilkes Booth not too long ago. I was contacted by people who said that they were related to John Wilkes Booth and that he never died in the barn, as history books tell us, that he actually survived the barn, and that a proxy was put in to show the American people that they caught the killer, but he actually got away, and he had a bunch of children, and his legacy lives on. Like, he lived for many, many years, which I thought was a really interesting, you know, kind of investigation. Right. So, an ex-FBI, actually, no, he's not FBI. He is, he's part of the U.S. Marshals. He and I did the investigation together. So it was on History Channel. And what's really interesting, yes, that's a way in to tell the Lincoln story again, right? It's interesting to do it that way. Could history have lied to us kind of idea? It's a mystery. But the bigger conversation at the time that show actually premiered was really based, my gut was telling me that when is it okay for the government to lie to us? Is it ever okay for our government to lie to us? Like Trump or Biden or whoever is in there. And I was thinking at the time that back in 1865, you know, Lincoln, you know, having a president assassinated, right? at that moment in time, the Civil War was just coming to an end.
Right.
And the Eastern Seaboard was basically burnt to a crisp. We were a country that is trying to pull itself out of war. And now you have the president assassinated.
Or so they say.
Oh, he was shot. He was definitely shot. It's whether or not Booth, the guy who shot him, got away with it or not. Right? So we know that Booth shot him at Ford's Theater. We know that. We know he jumped, from where Lincoln was sitting and broke his leg and then went into the Maryland countryside to hide. What we didn't know in the show is whether or not they actually found him in that barn and smoked him out. History tells us they smoked him out. Yeah, right. Yeah. Right. They smoked him out of the barn and then, and they shot him and whatever. They're saying he escaped the barn. But history tells us that they got him in the barn and they brought his body back and, whatever. And then they avenged Lincoln, they got Lincoln's killer. But what if they didn't? Would it have been so bad for the American government to simply put another person in that position and say we got him just to keep the country at bay at that time where the Civil War had just ended? We were trying to get rid of slavery. We were trying to do all these things. It's an interesting conversation. It's a meaningful conversation.
What would you have done?
Back in those days,
mm-hmm.
It was, to me, it's like I can see how that question could have happened. How people would have thought that the country would. They lie to us every single day, don't they? Aliens exist.
Yeah.
Aliens exist.
Can't nobody out there tell me this morning when you couldn't get on your Instagram and your Facebook that how the hell TikTok working but Facebook and Instagram not working?
During an election.
Mm-hmm. I know what's going on.
Yeah, it's just like this. So anyway, all of my shows have to have that sort of appeal to it. That's what I chose as my platform. So
substance.
Any of my shows, I can give you that same sort of reason. And that was a show that aired on History Channel back in, I guess, 2020, I think it aired, right before pandemic. Yeah.
It's horrible. I don't even want to think where I was at
Pandemic?
during the pandemic. Yeah, I was in jail. Oh, no.
Were you really in prison during it?
Mm-hmm.
And was that the lockdown safe for you? Meaning, did they?
No, they killed us.
They killed you. Yeah.
It was. First, they gave it to us, so we watched it. I was in New Folsom, and it was showing the news, and they showed that one cruise ship circling in the Oakland Harbor, and they said we can't let this cruise ship come on. They wouldn't let it dock.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there with my cellmate, and I'm like, they finna let it on. Watch. Instead of just letting the people stay on there, fix whatever you got to do, put a big bubble, whatever the hell you got to do to get it right. They let the people undock in, I guess, Frisco or Oakland, and shit just went haywire. And then they had us still running around, and they came with the lockdown. So I ended up being transferred, and I was going to court, but they wouldn't let us go to court.
Right.
So I was sitting in the Corcoran hole for the entirety of the lockdown, and all the doors there are perforated. Mm. So if a CO comes in, if you fart the wrong way, somebody's going to hear you. Yeah. If you sneeze, it's going to travel through 3 different buildings. And they came through, and we noticed, I was like, man, that dude's sweating in our food. You could see them sweating. They were coughing, sick, and visits had been canceled. There were no visits. So the only outside interaction is with the nurses and the COs. And it just swept through. There was no medical aid. You already can't go anywhere. And just to hear your next door neighbor gasping for air for his last moments of his life. And if you get sick, they punish you.
Yeah.
So when you get sick, they take you, they strip you down butt naked to your boxers and put you in some shower shoes, and they walk you to the security housing unit, and they leave you back there until it's done. So if you die back there, it is what it is. And being in that dust bowl of Kern Valley, New Delano, Old Delano, Corcoran, Sad F, all those prisons live, they're all right there in that dust bowl. So we would watch the news and just see the rising, 1,000 something dead here, 1,000 at this prison, and we're like, what do we do? So it was, they killed us. I would say They did it. They covered it up. Me as a person, I support certain movements, but I noticed that as a person in prison, the prison population has a gray spot. We're expendable, so we can die off. You can come and test whatever medications you want to test on us. You can test whatever chemical agents, mace, and combatants that you want to do on us, and nobody's ever going to hear a peep about it because we're the trash of the world, or we're the animals.
Yeah.
And it's a horrible thing to see. Just to see it and then feel it, because then you end up getting COVID.
Right.
So to see the guys dying, and then you're like,
you
okay,
and
then you get it, and to feel like your spine is being ripped out of your back, and to have cold sweats and heat sweats, and if you're shaking writing a letter because you have the chills, and just to know that your letter may not never get to your family because you have the celebrity killers. You know, you have the guys that the guy that had all his kids chained up and was having sex with his kids. Oh my gosh,
that's terrible.
So they're celebrities in prison.
Yeah.
So they get so much mail at one time that it takes us 2 weeks to 3 weeks to get our mail. So about time I'm hearing about Auntie Josephine and Uncle Leon dying,
gosh,
they're already in the ground.
Yeah, it's months later.
Because these people are sick, they want to get paid, and he's the local celebrity that people want to get a hold of. So just to see that,
I never thought about that.
Yeah, that was. I mean, look at Charles Manson. They built an entire yard just for him. An entire yard where he has gardens and he gets to plant watermelons when he was alive. And Sirhan, they flew him in on a helicopter and built that spot just for these men. Just for, like, who does that? The guy that killed Bill Cosby's son.
Yeah.
They live in the lap of luxury. And the average Joes, you walk around and do this, or the people that have touched kids.
Yeah.
They get special privileges.
Yeah.
And that's something that I want to ask you as a mom, as a woman, and as the daughter of a former police officer. How do you feel about that? Because I seen the Oprah series, and I was pissed. I was like, wow, so you build an island. You put the rapists on an island, rapists, pedophiles, and you say, here, you can live a normal life on this island, wear regular clothes and all this, but you don't provide rehabilitation. And they live there, and they walk there, and they ask the lady, what is it that you do? She said, well, I take kids because I feel like I can help them sexually. That's the creation of the devil to me.
Yeah, I agree.
That doesn't make any sense.
No.
And seeing people as a convicted person, to see a person go inside the prison system and continually get out. So you went in and you've raped this person or molested this person. This is.
I mean, I just came across two cases. Not the same, but equally troubling. No, one's more troubling. A white guy, New York, New Hampshire, somewhere up there. He was convicted of, I think it's pedophilia, but basically looking for little girls on the internet, getting their pictures. I think he tried to molest, or he did molest somebody, whatever it might be, a child, a minor. He was a father and a husband, living a secret life behind the door, right? And finally he gets convicted, but there was multiple photos of little girls, and who knows what he actually did, right? Because they can't prove. Whatever was proved in court is what I was able to read, what I would say. I don't know the rest of the story, because we all know there's more with those kind of people. He got 7 years. He got 7 years behind bars. Then there was another guy, an actor here in LA, not too long ago. He was in that movie Superfly. Kaylin Walker. He was also a rapper and whatever. I was reading his story. And his story is he came to LA, really good looking guy, had the world at his feet. His music was working. He got cast in a couple of movies. He was linked to Halle Berry, I believe. And he came into a lot of cash, as a kid, early 20s. And he starts doing what normal, young, good-looking 20-year-old guys do in LA. He starts dating girls. And telling girls that he's, going to take them to dinner or take them on a photo shoot or whatever it might be. And if you look at the transcripts of the court, it looks like he's raped 30 women. But if you look at, or if you talk to him, or if you look through all the different pieces of that puzzle, these girls thought they were going to get with a really good-looking guy, and when it didn't work out, they banded together. Here's a letter from one of the girls asking for $1 million to clear his name. And he, by the way, got 50 years to life. And they couldn't, I don't even know if they were able to prove a rape. 50 years to life, black guy. 50 years to life. I don't know. There's just this, I have a very hard time. I also think that case in particular was happening during the Me Too movement. By the way, all white jury here in California. And again, I wasn't there. I don't know exactly Kaylin's story, but there's just pieces of it that seems unfair. How does a white guy with little girls on his phone and molesting children get 7 years? And then this guy that you can hardly prove it. And you could see, if you look up his name, there's a posting from, I think, the Van Nuys Police Court, police department, when they were actually doing that investigation. They were like, if you ever met this guy and, if you know more victims, call this number. It was almost like they were scouting women to join the band.
Madam,
against this guy.
What's the best way to kill a man?
I don't know.
Assassinate his character. We can go back to, let's look at the story of William Lynch. Have you ever read
William Lynch.
So, break down what's been going on with that. Let's remember the old movie Rosewood?
Yeah.
Look how infuriated it creates people.
Yeah.
And then the message that it gave.
Yeah.
I've had my bosses, white bosses, bring me into the office. Ray, remember, because I called him. I was infuriated. I'm talking about pissed. Like, I get upset, but when I get pissed is when I can't defend myself.
Right.
Let me match the intensity. Let me give you exactly, if that's what you wholeheartedly want,
let me give it back. Right.
But don't hide and do something. So it was,
right.
I worked the job for a while. My bosses, I'm top guy, I'm trained, doing all that stuff. And my boss said, we need to talk to you in the office. I said, what the hell we need to talk about? There already been friction there. And it's like, such and such called and said that they quit. And I said, wow. No, first she called me and said, DeDante, what did you do? So I didn't do anything. I've been sitting right here doing what you told me to do. She said, this guy called, walked off the job and said he quit because he doesn't feel safe around you and he doesn't feel right with you being there. She said, what did you do? And I said, well, look at the camera. I've been sitting here the whole time doing my job. I said, we forgot. When the black man doesn't show up to work with a smile on his face and being a jester and being everybody's entertainment and I'm taking my work serious, it's a threat because you can't understand me. I said, maybe you need to get more people here with a little more color and get some people with the friends that they need to, other than what they watch or the little likes that they do. And maybe you'll know how to communicate more and understand that some of us just have a stern face. We're thinking, They would quit and then their girlfriend would call after. Because he couldn't win. Girlfriend calls way from Africa where she's doing something with dogs and says, I quit. Same story. And she says something else afterwards. Yeah, I don't feel safe around him. And at one point, he tried to jump into my car and force himself in there. And I said, wow, that's strange. And my boss said, that's strange because you never told us about this. And I said, when was this? When we were supposed to be working. I said, how am I forcing myself into a car where I'm invited to, where I have to go with a dog to go and train? Then I thought about it and said, we need to have the football talk with you. I said, what's the football talk? He said, you're a black man. You have a lot of tattoos. You've been in prison. You have a certain move about you that can be intimidating. So maybe you should this is what they say, you should calm down on who you are so people can feel safe. And at that moment, I said, I see exactly what it is. So you face that, and then I have two of those stories right there that I can look at and be like, damn, this could have been me. And the other story is when I speak about the whole rape and the sex offenders thing, it hits home for me way more close than a lot of people. Why? Because I have a sister who's mentally handicapped who was raped. Not only her, but 3 other kids. And not only that, this man lives 10 minutes down the street from me, and I know where he lives, and I can't do a damn thing about it. So you did this 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, and you only got 4 years for it. And to add fuel to the fire is that she can never get that back, and she'll never understand what you've done, but I understand what you've done, and you took advantage in a major way.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in prison, and my mom sends me a letter and says, yes, he's at that prison. And I look out my back window and I see him walking to work, and he's on the other yard. So I feel different about, and people say, well, all the crimes are the same. No, they're not. See, when gang members commit a crime against another gang members, it's mutual. Why? Because we both know what we signed up for.
Right.
We both know what it is.
Right.
But when you prey on the innocent, I had to walk a kid home the other day because a man was touching him. And I said, do you feel safe? And the kid said no. And this grown-ass man was just grabbing all on him. And I chased him away, and he turned around. And our society is so fucked up of what we accept. Everybody thinks it's some type of prank.
Sure.
Everybody thinks it's a game. They think it's a joke, to where this dude was hugging everybody, grabbing him. And I'm like, y'all don't see this? And then he grabs this little boy, and I said, what is going on? So I was walking home from school. I bought some chips because I want to make money, because obviously, parents not there. We live in the ghetto. And he's like, I want to hustle. I said, all right, you feel safe? He said, no. I said, you know this guy? He said, no, he just started following me. He was like, I don't know him from Adam and Eve. So I said, I'm going to walk you home. And we walking home, all the little kids were outside. I said, all y'all go in the house, run. Yeah. And they all ran in the house. All the adults stayed out there and looked. This kid was so scared that he ran, dropped his keys, jumped the gate, climbed the gate to his house, left his backpack, and ran in the house and locked the door. And this dude's out here, I'm sorry. What are you sorry for? The cops only come when a crime is committed, not to prevent it.
That's right.
So me, as a man of morale and dignity and substance, not somebody that's, hey, pull out your phone and take a video of this.
Right.
I had to let him know, if you touch him again, life is going to change for you. I had to be like that.
Of course.
And if things would have happened and I went to prison, I'd have been completely content with it, because at least this kid know that this man is not going to take some from him. You're not going to hurt him. So that's why I asked your opinion on your viewings of that, because it's strange.
It's a completely different. I mean, I find it very hard to stomach those cases, because I can't see the human behind the eyes in those cases.
Right.
I can't see it. I'll say the same thing for murder. I can't see the human behind a senseless act of murder, taking another person's life. I can't see that.
Do you believe a man can be forgiven for murder?
I do.
What is an act of senseless murder in your vision, your eyesight?
Well, it's hard to say, right? It's like, what I call senseless makes sense to other people. I don't pretend that I've ever been in the position that a lot of people in this world has been in. I've not.
So you studied the law, so you understand the difference between killing and murdering.
I do. But I do believe that there is... I don't judge someone by their worst act. I don't allow that to... I believe in rehabilitation of people. For the most part, I do. I've seen really where in my gut, I believe that people can be rehabilitated. It falls on them to be rehabilitated. Is it possible? Yes. I've worked with a lot of amazing doctors and mental health specialists that work in reentry and rehabilitation on some of the, most heinous acts, and they've seen people change. So I believe in it. I've also seen the other way, where they don't want it. Or they can't get out of their own way, whether it be a mental health issue, whether they fall back into the same trappings of their life. I've seen all of that. So I don't judge people for their own experiences in life.
Right.
I just don't. It's a very difficult thing to say that I can see a killing be justified. I can't. That's why I don't believe in the death penalty. I have very stern opinions on that.
What is your opinion on the death penalty?
If you were to hurt my child, I would justifiably, in my head, kill you and go to jail for it. Okay?
Thank you. Finally, somebody who has the fucking understanding. Am I allowed to curse in here?
Of course.
Somebody has fucking understanding of, and I have to say it freely. Somebody has fucking understanding of how this works. So, when people ask, go ahead, because that was the perfect sense of it all.
If it's me, right, and you've hurt me and come after my child, that's the epitome, right? I will take the responsibility and I am fine because I'm taking it on myself, right? When the government does it, that's a whole separate thing.
Right.
In my opinion, the government gets it wrong so many times, and this is a human-led, a human-aired process.
Right.
One person, you get it wrong. One person, you've killed an innocent man, which we know they've done that before.
Right.
Makes it that inoperable to me.
I have the understanding of...
Oh, and by the way, I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ.
Okay.
I'm a Catholic girl.
Right.
I cannot wear a cross around my neck and say eye for an eye. I can't do it.
Right.
Then I'd be a hypocrite. That's not what we were taught. That's not... And so people standing behind their moral code of Christianity doesn't work for me.
Right. Growing up in a Christian household, Baptist families from the South, they fall into Freemason. They do.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my uncles. I've been to the.
I love that.
You go there and you stand outside. You see, you're like, oh, why am I going to this raggedy ass building? You go in, you're like, wow, like this is. Like, it's some real court being held in there, but very smart people, hardworking, like for my uncles that I knew of. But
it's fascinating. All of that is fascinating to me.
The books and just the learnings and the language. Don't try to recruit me. I know there's some of y'all out there, but the death penalty or let's go back to the murder and killing. So, growing up in Compton. I'm pretty sure whenever you meet my boy Lamont, you're going to meet him. You meet Christopher. Growing up, it's dog eat dog.
Yeah.
If I walk down the street and I see nigger killer on the wall, how should I feel? If I walk across the tracks and people, they don't even ask me where I'm from, and they just shoot, how should I feel?
Right.
If I go into my household and I live in a group home where they put padlocks on the refrigerators and I can't eat freely and I'm living like an animal, how should I feel? If nobody cares about me and I'm just a child walking the streets, why the fuck should I care about anybody else? If I haven't tried to shoot at you or do anything wrong to you and you try to come at me and you keep on doing it and you blatantly put it on the wall, forget niggers. F niggers. No matter where you go to Long Beach right now, in 2024, you'll see nigger killer on the wall. You go to Compton, you look over there, you'll see nigger killer on the wall. I was standing out on the porch the other day. It's bigger than the gang thing because gangs always go back to race.
Yeah.
Gang started because people were in low income areas. They came from the South. It was impoverished. The police were at the time coming, taking advantage and robbing and stealing. So they needed somebody to protect. So they would go out into the night and take stuff and bring it back to their families. And everybody was together. That's what it initially started out.
Right.
And then one day in some fall or summer night, a train stopped in the middle of Watts, loaded with guns. And then one day somebody figured out, hey, I know how to create cocaine. And not that no average person in the black community knows how to make cocaine. That takes some science. That takes some stuff. So if I have all these elements against me,
yeah, what are you gonna do?
And I got a gun. Now as time passes, that was the way of a 12-year-old black boy. That was me. I can only speak for me. But as time passed and years passed, and I look at,
but you didn't feel like, and I think I asked this because again, this is not where I come from at all, and I'm not trying to pretend I know.
Yeah.
You don't really have a choice, do you? When you're a kid.
Shout out to Andre Spicer, because Andre Spicer he's the 2nd district assemblyman down there. One out of about 200,000 dudes, he's a city council member.
Yeah.
And when he ran for city council, they put illegal votes up against him.
Yeah.
So what type of message did that? I mean, you have a choice, but then you don't have a choice. If I want to eat, do I go stand outside the food bank that they might not have because Compton is broke, or do I go rob somebody?
Yeah.
That was the reason why I started robbing. I was like, all right, I'm tired of being in the Department of Children and Family Services.
Yeah.
You'll pay somebody $4,000 to dope me up and keep me in the room all day, but you won't give my own mother $4,000 in assistance to take care of me herself, and she knows me best.
Right.
And they don't care. So if I'm just a paycheck and I'm somebody's money, why not just get out here and do it myself? I'd rather live on the streets than live where somebody has complete control over me.
Yeah.
So, and then as you get older, or it's certain things that you just feel that you have to do. It's the jungle. I mean, it's the jungle.
I get it. It's the jungle, yeah.
So
kill or be killed. It's exactly what you said.
Pretty much. I mean, has things changed in Compton? Yes, because in, let's say, the early 90s, Compton was called Chopper City.
Yeah.
They had the most AKs, everything was, and they had about, I believe, I'm looking at my studies right, 200-something murders a year. To this current day, it's only 19 murders a year. So it was.
And what was the change? What do you think was the change? What happened?
You may have taken away the guns and locked up the guys that were committing crimes or who you thought committed crimes. But what did you replace it with? I mean, are the streets safe? I wouldn't think, no. I mean, you left an entire city just left to
shambles.
Streets are tore up.
So are the murders just being committed somewhere else?
I mean,
or is it that
everybody's mom and daddy's locked up, and then everybody was either moved out of Compton or left Compton. And it's just the place where it's just dry. Like businesses are shut down. It's just dry. It's hard to get stuff there. You can't anything. They tell you when you want to come to Compton, don't ask the city to do anything. Bring your own shit because we're broke, and don't let them have any control over the money, because why? Your money's gonna come up missing, or they're gonna find a way to just get over. It's just horrible. I mean, I see beautiful things. I see the horses. I see the people. But those are the people. But if you're not gonna get the people anything, then what?
Right.
You know, it sits right next to LA. You can drive right outside the Staples Center.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like, for a city that has so much, to allow that to happen to our own people, you know, and you have so much money here. Right. You know, to allow that to be, it's like, you know, and that's why.
Fellas, we need to get a date where we could take her. I want to take you down there.
Yeah.
You know, I want you to to drive down Long Beach Boulevard and see women butt naked. 15 huddles of 15 selling themselves.
Selling themselves, yeah.
Little girls all the way up to the grown up, like it's like we in Tijuana or something. To see that right there, and then cross the bridge to go, you can tell the line. Because once you get to the Long Beach Bridge, it's Long Beach Police Department. No prostitutes allowed. But from Long Beach Boulevard all the way to Watts, down that street,
free game.
Do what you want to do.
Free game.
And to walk through and see those. I asked them, man, you all right? And what's going on? And they're like, and then these chicks, they're forced.
Yeah, they're forced.
Some of them, I explained it to my lady, because she's like, why are they out there? Why do they do this? And I was like, there's different forms of prostitution.
Yeah.
You got the ones that are trafficked. You have the ones who feel like they're forced, or they have the mental capacity not to get out of this lifestyle. Some of them are just providing for their kids. And some of them just have a dude out here taking full advantage of them, and they go and pay him.
They're pimped, yeah.
And I asked the council member, why is this happening? He said, because it's the norm. He said, I hate it. He's actually said, I hate to see it. Like he said, because the cops don't care about the ladies.
No.
They don't care about the women. They want the pimp that's sitting in the house somewhere, but
right.
How are you going to catch him where there's cameras everywhere and they use their own cameras against them?
Mm-hmm.
But it's the school systems. It's just...
Yeah. It's a system that's designed.
And then I look at all these people that are from the city, and that shit is... If I had a multitude of rappers, basketball players, and all that, and they were from one place, and they all left out, and they never came back, there's no reason why the Compton Walmart is the Compton Walmart right now when it was the Compton swap meet. They closed that down. I don't know why all these all the rappers out there, I hope you hear me because I've been saying this for years. You built a Walmart instead of building a school of performing arts.
Yeah, that's so true.
Health clinics.
Yeah, there's so many other things.
Safe havens, but you built a Walmart and let Walmart come and gift you with a stupid ass game called Comptonopoly.
Oh, right. I did.
Here, play the game to remind yourself of the city. So it's
yeah.
It's just it's broken people, but there's good things going on like this. We did a docu-series and it really brought people together. My boy Vincent was there, so I was like, man, that was my first EP, and my brain was hurting at the end of it. I was like, all right, it's done. I'm ready to go to sleep. Leave me alone.
Never do that again.
No, I'm gonna do it again because I love a good fight.
Okay.
Anything given to me easy, I don't want it. It's like, all right, just like when your dad told you, you're gonna be broke for the rest of your life. I'm that type. Tell me what I'm not gonna do, and that's enough motivation. Right. Yeah, I'll be right back. Don't worry about it. And what is your viewing on the prison reform situation?
So, like I said, I got into criminal justice reform through the Kevin Keith case, which was a big podcast on Spotify. It was Kim Kardashian.
Is that the guy that was from Chino that they said escaped from the which one was the guy in Chino? Well, he was on death row. She went up there to see him, but he was...
different case. I didn't work on that case. This is the case out of Ohio, Kevin Keith. He was... We know he's been wrongfully convicted of a triple homicide there over 30 years ago now. And we know that because we know who the real killer is. And it's a terrible story of small white town America. It was a black on black crime. They didn't give a shit about any of the people involved. And it was a corrupt police department that they knew exactly what was happening all along. They had corrupt cops working against the blacks there, and he basically got framed for a terrible triple homicide. 2 women and a child was killed. 2 children were shot. They survived. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible crime. But that case got me involved into understanding all of the different pieces that can happen in a wrongful conviction, from really bad police work. I mean, such bad police work that if when I started looking at it, I found things they didn't find. I found police reports that they didn't pull in for discovery, evidence.
Doesn't it upset you? Like this? It's like, hold on.
No, well, it did.
You can't see this?
No, it did. You didn't see this? Really? Of course they did. Of course they did. But they had blinders on because they wanted Kevin Keith to take the fall for this crime. And when your police that you work for people who have been elected to their positions and that they get their jobs based on wins, and they are, in this case, not all, but in this case, a bunch of white boys that couldn't go to college. So they
talk, Lori.
So they became cops, and now you put a gun on their hip without ever giving them any training at all. No sociology, no psychology, no nothing. They come out of high school playing football, thinking they're hot shit, to putting a badge and a gun on their hip. They knew exactly what they were doing.
It goes back to the origins of policing. The new Jim Crow. She says it right in there.
New Jim Crow.
They didn't want the poor whites and the poor blacks getting together to come along to cause an uprising to overthrow the people that the power be. So they said, we need to give you a title. So here, we need you to go and patrol all this. Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what happened. They knew it wasn't me. I'm not Sherlock Holmes. It was all there. Nobody gave a shit. Why? Because it was black on black crime. That's why. Nobody gave a shit. They put their head, they wanted to get Kevin Keith off the street. He knew too much. They put him away. Not only that, but they gave him the death penalty. He was on death row. And I talk to Kevin all the time. And he said to me once, I'll never forget it. He said, Lori, they've already killed me. 3 times I think it's 2 or 3 times he had his last meal. Can you imagine? That's how close he came. So I've done that. I've already signed away where my body was supposed to go. That's already I'm dead. How much more dignity can you take from a person who didn't commit a crime? Was he a drug dealer? Yes, but that doesn't make you a murderer, especially of a child and 2 women. So that's where it started for me, that I had to go down that path to be able, and what I really ask a lot of people to do, is to go down the path, ask the hard questions.
Nobody wants to touch
Nobody wants to do it. Okay, then that's going to be the legacy that they have in their platform. But my legacy and my platform won't be that. Because if you see something and you know about it, and you do nothing about it, you're complacent. You're just as bad as those other people.
And that's what when we talked to Chris and Lamont, I sit there and I toss him. I'm like, bro, whatever it is, you finna come up out of it.
Yeah.
As much people as we reach out to and we don't get the response back, I just use it as motivation. I tell them to use it as motivation.
Right.
Tell them all we need is a few good men, bro. I tell them we need a few good men. Everybody's they doing it for other reasons, and when your heart's not in it, that shit backfires on you.
It does.
And you don't know how many people gonna get touched by those flames. So I tell them keep that shit 100. I'm gonna keep it 100. Because at the end of the day, what do I have to lose? Let's really look at it.
Yeah.
You went and convicted some men of something that they didn't do.
Yeah.
It's so blatantly, California is real blatantly disrespectful. California is about close as Mississippi is with how they handle their law. Blatantly disrespectful. So disrespectful, it's like, okay, he was never identified, so fucking what?
This is a case, I'm dealing with a case right now. Guy out of Oakland, rapper, hugely talented kid. Hugely talented. He was not there. He was not at a crime. The killer went by a different name. He was identified by a habitual and self-proclaimed as being high that night, drug user, black guy, red baseball cap, gray car. So what'd they do? They found a black guy with a red baseball cap and a gray car. That's all they have. That's the Pierre Rushing case in Alameda right now. I just went up to see him in Salinas. He's on a really hard yard there too.
Pierre Rushing.
He's from Oakland. He's from Holly, 77th and Holly.
Dark skin older dude.
It's a great guy. Really, hugely talented, but and a warrior. And my biggest pain in the ass. He's my biggest, and I lovingly say that, because he calls me every single day just to remind me of his innocence. Because he has to, because no one else is listening. And everybody else might think that, won't take that jail call. I take them all the time.
Right.
I have to. They're there. I'm out here. Right?
Right.
But Pierre, it was the victim in that case is still a victim. Dewanye Taylor was killed because someone thought that he stole their iPod.
Right.
Back in the early 2000s. Shot on the streets of Oakland. Dead. Kid. And the killer had a moniker of the letter C. Pierre Rushing doesn't even have a C in it. He wasn't there. And the other part of that story, again, going back to what you're saying about, again, the blinders, and you don't even need to have an identification, they'll just put you in.
Right.
When police questioned him, they said, "Where were you on April 15th?" Pierre instinctively says, "April 15th. That's my dad's birthday. Where was I? It's tax day. It's my dad's birthday. I would have, because if nothing significant happens on a day, you don't remember that day." Right. Do you know what you did last Wednesday afternoon, 4:00?
Nope.
Right. Because nothing might have, maybe if you went to the dentist, you'd remember that.
Right.
But Pierre had to think about April 15th. Okay, my dad's birthday, and it's tax day. Where was I? And he went through in his mind and thought, I got him a gift. I was at my grandmother's house. He was putting it all together. That's what he tells the police. I knew I saw my dad that day. I was staying at my grandmother's house, blah, 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 blah. That's what he rattles that off. You know what the cop forgot to say? 3:15 a.m. Where were you at 3:15 a.m. on April 15th? Because Pierre would have said, I was sleeping at my grandmother's house with my girlfriend Lauren, his alibi witness. But instead, the cop said he lied. He didn't tell us the truth of where he was on April 15th. No, if you ask anyone, 3:15 a.m., that's the day before.
Right.
Now you talk about April 14th.
Right. And who's going to think, what am I doing up at 3 in the freaking morning? Like,
let's just say you went to a club. Let's just say you went out with your friends. That's not April 15th in your mind. It's April 14th.
Right.
Because you're still living the day before.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. You instinctively don't, you either are sleeping or where was I the night before?
Right.
That's the 14th. So they called him a liar. They made his alibi uncredible and his alibi witness an uncredible witness because
who was
of
the
it.
district attorney at that time?
Well, I can tell you who it is now. It's Pamela Price.
Who was it back
and
then?
She's not helping either. So if you ever see any of those little hashtags on Pamela Price's page, hashtag what about Pierre Rushing, that's me and all of my team doing it. Because, again, you have politicians running on criminal justice reform platforms. She's in office.
I hit somebody. I done hit Judge Joe Brown with the hashtag. Judge Mathis with the hashtag. Steve Harvey with the hashtag.
Right?
I hit up everybody one day. You'll see it one day. But
anyway, I'm just going back and I'm spewing off what you're telling me is that, and again, what lights my fire in criminal justice reform in the space is that they needed nothing to put these guys away. Nothing.
Right.
They just did. And they didn't think about it. And putting people on death row, it's a whole... there's a guy that
still sitting in the county jail after they cleared the death row. Their men have been sitting in the county jail for 15 years. You know what it's like to sit in a building that doesn't have windows? They don't have windows in there. It's recycled air for 15 years because you're waiting for the laws to get their shit together. And my case was one of the first ones to go up with the juvenile stuff.
Oh.
I like it, but...
No, I hear ya.
Prop 57. People, we dropped the ball with Prop 57 because Prop 57 should not have been handed back for the courts to have control of. No, CDC.
Takes forever.
CDC should have never had control over that. Oh, our computers have to upgrade, or we have to do this and put that. No. It was easy to send all them people in there, send their ass right back. I sat in a court case. For you, I see the fire. I see it. You got that passion. And it's funny because you're Catholic Christian and you sit across from a Muslim. Mm-hmm. So that lets people know that you don't have to have the specifics of it as long as your morale and your quality is on point. Yeah. And I was going to court, and this is the blatant disrespect of the law and the law enforcement. I say the biggest gang in California is the law enforcement.
Absolutely.
And I was going to court. So a correction officer said, oh, yeah, you broke my leg in 7 different places. You assaulted me and you did all this. Complete lie. The warden even said it was a complete lie and dropped it in the facility. The money game is so hungry for all these smaller counties. Don't think LA County is the worst one. No, there's people out there that act and follow just behind LA County, and they're more disrespectful. Why? Because LA County has a TV in front of it. But these little rural towns out here, Kings County, all those Ione and whatever that shit is up there by High Desert, told my lawyers to their face. Christopher Hawthorne from the Loyola Law School, F.D. Sharoni, all these lawyers that came up there. Yeah. They said, do you know where you're at? This is Kings County.
Yeah.
For us to get a conviction, it's like shooting fish in a barrel with those prisoners. We don't care if they committed the crime. We just want a conviction.
Right.
So I fought it for 3 years, and my lawyer said, she came to me, she said, I've never heard a district attorney use over 30 objections in my whole 20 years of my career as a practicing lawyer and as a professor. She objected everything and the judge just let her do it. She said, you're looking at 50 to life over something where you never even touched anyone.
That's okay.
When the prison dropped it. So, my biggest regret was taking that deal.
Taking the deal, yeah.
It went from 50 to life and they dropped it all the way down to willful resisting of a peace officer. I regret not fighting it. Why? Because I knew I was going to lose.
I know.
I got the fight in me, but I knew I was going to lose.
I hear that all the time from guys. I hear it. That's a very real thing. And it's so sad that you can't even fight for your own integrity and your own honesty. You have to fight. You have to fight to see.
It makes you feel like even when I'm right, I'm wrong.
You're wrong. Yeah.
Why not?
Why not? Right. Just do it. It's exactly the same mentality of what you grew up with.
Right.
You know, I can't. I have no. It's not giving me the choice.
Right.
Right. And that's just it's broke. That's why. And I always, it's people say it's broken. It's rigged.
Oh yeah.
It's rigged. This is not a. This is that guy who got 7 years for a pedophile of children. 7 years.
And nobody knows.
That's a guy that deserves to just sit. Give him a week on death row.
Man, where's Jared at? Mr. Subway?
Yeah. All right. These people get out. And they get out, you're going to put them on the sex offenders list. That's going to happen, and they're going to live. And I pray, I really do, I pray and believe in rehabilitation. I really would like to believe that everyone has within them the ability to learn from mistakes and be better people and be better neighbors. I really do believe that. I have to believe that. It's on them to do it.
Right.
It's on them to do it. And it's on all of us to try to give the opportunity to the people that are coming out of prison. Now we're going to shift to reentry.
Yeah.
Their ability to live. To live. They've done their time. Give them the tools that they need to become active members of our community. I've never met a more dedicated group of people than men who are just about, or women coming out of prison and ready to go home and ready to get jobs, and they can't get hired.
And
they can't do it.
That's probably one of the reasons why I went into dog training on my own.
Yeah.
Reason why I wanted to train, and because you get out and men that get out, just how you say, they're so eager to work, and the workforce takes advantage of them.
Yeah.
Because you get caught into that workforce dependency.
Yeah.
You can't take a day off. You're always working, and I used to
They hold it over your head.
Exactly. And I used to sit there, and you feel like you have to do more than everybody else because they're already looking at you as an ex-con.
Yeah.
And let's keep it real. Amazon, with these major contracts that they have with GeoCorp.
Yeah.
How do I know this? I'm not just, for people out there, I'm not talking out of my ass. This is the shit that I experienced. Went and tried to open up the dog program in Long Beach with GeoCorp. Had the head of GeoCorp fly in from Florida, Miami, to sit down. And they shot it down.
Yeah.
Why? Because the community said we don't want cons running around in our neighborhood, let alone with dogs. And when it came to funding, somehow we came up with the funding. Still shot it down. So I went in there and I told the director to her face, I said, look, you want to be a star. You can be the star. You can be the head of all this.
Yeah.
You can have that. I don't want that. I just want to work and have dudes be able to be bosses.
Yeah.
Because not everybody was born to be a worker.
Right.
Not everybody was born to be a follower. Some people genuinely have that natural knack to be a boss, and you have to provide them with the tools. If not, they're going to self-destruct because they're not living and being who they are.
Yeah.
It's an identity crisis. We have an identity crisis growing up in the black community. What is that? And especially Hispanic community. We don't talk to white people. We don't seek help in the mental health department because that's just not what it is. Or you somehow get set up and end up on some meds and dependent on opiates. There's reasons why there's certain rules that were put into play because you get taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And that process that dudes are going through. I had a guy come back from work. He said, man, I couldn't get a job. At least I refused to take the job. I said, why, bro? What's going on? Essay dude. And he said, man, they try to make me work in the ice room. I was like, you just got out. A job is a job. He said, nah, fool. His essay, he's like this big. He said, nah, fool. This is the reason why, homie. And check this out. I was like, what? He said, they wanted me to work in the ice room because of my tattoos. I can't work in the front, but I'll be your little monster that you got working in the back, spinning the wheel. And I just shook his hand. I said, I respect that, champ. I can't do anything but respect that. It's you can take on all the work. You can be the best worker.
Yeah.
And we see it. The world doesn't think we see it. We see the eyes. We see the people looking. We still see people lock the car doors when we get out of the car, when we walk up and we walk into a room and everybody gets quiet when they were just talking. We notice the little shit.
Yeah.
Or if I walk up to this person, one person stays, two other people leave. We learned that in prison. Those are instincts that we learn for survival. So our senses are way heightened, but our faces don't show it. And we see all the little things. So when I start noticing, certain checks were coming up this way, or, they tell you don't get put on the salary at certain jobs. I didn't know this. So I was taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And they don't want people like me or Chris or Lamont or people like you to be in these type of settings. Why? Because you're going to give them the truth.
Yeah, you're going to get the truth.
And that truth is going to hurt these people.
That's right.
And that hurt is going to make them fuel that fire. To be like, all right, now I know what's going on.
Or face the reality of their own demons.
Yeah. I'm talking about the people that the guys that don't know of it.
Oh yeah.
This is how you do this, or this is how you write a check, or this is how you going to get this. I have juveniles that I was working with at Camp Kilpatrick. And they called me. I said, what did you do when you first got out? He said, bro, they drove me from the halfway house to the GR line.
Yeah.
Why are you taking kids fresh out of juvenile hall to go get general relief?
Well, there's this. I'm part of the National Reentry Association for Reentry, and they do a reentry simulation for people who have never gone through the process, right? And what happens is it's a huge ballroom, and everybody as you walk in get a folder, and inside the folder is who you are. You've now become this person. So I became a woman getting out of prison who has children and a boyfriend. I forgot what I did. It was, robbery or something like that. And then on the other side is what I have to do for the next 2 weeks, and 5 bus passes, my social security card, and I think a DVD player to pawn. That was in my folder. And every 15 minutes of the simulation, you have to go through this checklist of things to do. Well, the first thing I did is, because I have kids at home, I went to the food bank. And when I got to the food bank, I used the bus pass to get there. Got to the food bank. She's like, yeah, we can help you. I need 3 forms of photo ID. I need a photo ID and 2 other forms of ID. All I have is a social security card. She goes, you're going to have to go to Health and Human Services, which is all the way on the other side of the room. By the way, you need a bus pass for that. Now it's the second bus pass gone. Get to Health and Human Services, the line is around the corner, just like it would be in normal, right? And by the time I got up, and it was run by the Florida Department of Corrections, that's where this reentry conference was. And by the time I got to the front of the line, ding, 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 the first 15 minutes of the simulation had ended. And I'm like, well, what do I do? They're like, take a bus. You have to come back tomorrow. We're closed. Mm-hmm. And the Florida Department of Corrections are hysterical laughing at me because I'm like, but I need a photo ID to go get my food at the food bank. Like, I'm going to starve. And they're laughing. They're just laughing. I'm like, why are you laughing? Like, is this real? Is this the way? He goes, this is what it's like, right? And by the time that simulation was over, I had already gone back to jail because I had failed a drug test. I had tried to sell my blood, my plasma, to get money. When I went to pawn my DVD, it was March Madness, and they were closed for 3 days, so I couldn't pawn it. Mm-hmm. Just the things, how we're set up to fail. We're setting people up to fail. This is the reality of our reentry system, right? And what I wanted to do immediately, and what I plan on doing, and I'm talking to everyone about it, not only California, but I want a federal system of reentry where when you walk out of prison, you get a photo ID. It doesn't have to be your driver's license, but your photo ID, your social security card, just so that you have the ability to go and get what you need immediately.
The worst thing.
No photo ID.
I've never had I went to prison when I first turned 14.
Wow.
So I was tried as an adult. I just spent 18 years in juvenile hall, CYA, and maximum security prison. Mm. And I just finished fighting a case on my last 3 years for 50 to life. And I got out with just the clothes on I was homeless.
Yeah.
I went into prison homeless, and I got out of prison homeless. And I went to the halfway house, but I didn't know anything about social security card because I'd never seen it. Department of Children and Family Services destroyed all my stuff. So had no social security card, have no birth certificate.
What did they give you?
They gave me nothing.
Nothing, just clothes.
No, they gave me nothing.
Nothing.
They gave me nothing. And since I, no family or anything like that because I don't have any contacts, I just told them I spent what little money, and I'll admit the money that I did make to put the clothes on my back to get out of prison, it came from selling wine in prison. Yeah. I had to, I would have got out with anything.
Yeah.
So I had to take prison stuff to the streets with me. I had to take prison soap to bathe on the streets.
Yeah.
I had to still use my shower shoes from prison on the streets until I finally started working after the 90-day blackout period.
Right, the blackout period.
And then the locations that they have you at. The location is, I was stranded in Watts one night at 11 o'clock at night, and my ankle monitor is on, and they're supposed to pick you up. I'm like, yo, I'm stranded in Watts. They just had a shooting at the train station, and the back is on fire because they're protesting. You guys gonna come get me? They said, no, find your way back home. In the middle of Watts, 11 o'clock at night, with an ankle monitor on after being in prison all that time.
Unbelievable.
So there's.
And what about the halfway house? What was that experience like?
Well, I went to GeoCorp, and that was the MCRP. That's when you still have to finish your time. And I don't know if it's a penny pinching. Man, let's just keep it real. It's penny pinching. It's people not giving a damn, and it's the prison industrial complex just making a giant profit off of it. You get to a halfway house, CDC drops you off. It's a miniature prison. Most likely it's in an industrial area. So the one that I was at was next to a meat processing factory. It was next to a plastic factory. You smell it. It was just all this. It's right off the Artesia Cherry Freeway.
Okay.
Instead of you having rooms, they have you in cubicles. So this is one cubicle. It's 2 bunk beds, 2 bunk beds, 2 bunk beds.
Okay.
And there's lockers and lockers. And it's just a room, just this entire room, just full of bunk beds and lockers and cubicles. They feed you in a cafeteria, like prison. You have to get up and go to class. It's like prison. The curriculums aren't even right for guys getting out of prison. So there was conflict because they would be wanting to teach us about sexual assault stuff. And we're like, yo, none of us in here are in here for any type of weird shit like that. So we don't want to hear that. Community showers. It's not private. So you go in there, it's dudes just in there taking showers.
Yeah, no dignity.
And they have a thing called the, if you've heard of the STOP program. Now, I don't know what the STOP program was created for. I'll speak on what I've seen from the STOP program being there and seeing this. STOP program is designed to give you housing. but they also go out on the streets and pick up homeless people.
Oh.
So they go out and recruit homeless people. They bring them in. And they say, hey, this is your area. And they were doing this during COVID. So you're bringing sick people in, knowing damn well. But they know if I have you here for the next 2 weeks and you don't manage to run out of this program, I get to keep that contract money. So after the 2 weeks, I don't care. And if you feel like running out, go ahead.
But they keep you there for
So they keep those guys for 2 weeks. And once they've done, they're like, all right, now we can get the money. And then, all right, you can leave if you want to. So I seen it. And I don't think that it wasn't beneficial. It was beneficial for the fact that you're out of jail and you're not on the street being a bum. But as far as being beneficial, like, yo, I'm a dog trainer, and I told them, look, this is my career. They said, you need to go work at Amazon. I said, why would I go work at Amazon if you know you're going to run a background check and within 2 weeks you're going to fire these dudes?
Right.
So you just, here, go work there. They make the money. We fulfilled our contract. I'm not going to go work at a rubber factory. Why don't you work there? Because it's burnt rubber. I don't want to inhale it. And you're not giving me safety masks.
Right.
All right, what about me purchasing a car, having my family go and drive me places? No, you're not allowed cars here, and you can either use a bike or use the bus. My certain specific skill set only allows for me to work with dogs.
Right. How do you put a dog on a bus or a bike?
So I would have to ride a bike from GeoCorp to Culver City every day. And back. 4 hours there, 4 hours back. Every day. Then they get back and they take my checks. And they say, all right, we give it to you in the end. And then once you get out, they say, hey, go cash your check. And every guy shows up at the bank and they say, what's your other forms of verification ID? So now I'm stuck with a check I can't cash. So essentially I'm broke just running around LA.
Right.
And that's what happened. Then once I went into the other reentry, it was just too many people in one house. You have 15, 20 dudes in one little ass house. There's 4 guys living in one room. You open the refrigerator's roaches crawling out the refrigerator. So
what do you do? Do you stay or do you go? Like, what do you do?
I stayed there, and it just so happened that my boss at the time, Colleen Steckloff, who's a celebrity dog trainer, and I told her, look, I want to be invested in dog training. I want to be I want to live dog. And she was moving out, and she said, look, you can go up there and live up there, and you learn dog, and you be there. I'd have been back on the streets. Yeah. It's just that fast to trigger. I seen about 75% of the guys that went into that halfway house either dead or back in jail.
Well, 75% of them. That's the plan.
And it's a revolving door.
That's the plan.
But it's like nobody wants to listen because it's like, why would I take away from my money to help you?
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, bro, we're saying the same thing. And that's when the detachments come in, or those character defects.
Yeah,
the ego comes in, or the people that say, hey, all right, you can get here. I'll let you in, but you can get here, but don't ever think you can be here or get here. And that's what's happening. Yeah. And that's why I sit there and I talk to my bros inside. I'm like, man, you got so many of these. Like, all it takes is for one big person. You don't even have to give them no money. Just do a repost and watch what it does. Right. Because real people are looking for real things.
Yeah, it's true.
Like with you, I purposely did not go read anything about you. It spoils my moments. I want to sit there and I want to read a person. I want to look at them and see, all right, what are you about? I want to get a feel for a person and see, like, all right, what's the method to your madness and what's your end game?
Yeah, I mean, the same.
Right.
Same. I didn't look into any of this. I know Ray, but I don't like to come into these conversations with like anything canned. Like, here's what I'm planning to say in a podcast.
Right.
Because I'm a television producer, so I know that it doesn't come off authentic. But the other thing is that I genuinely don't have an end game, to be honest. I never thought of myself as being an advocate or getting into this conversation or becoming part of this world. I've been touched by God. I've been, it's whatever you believe in, the universe, something spiritual. I have no other explanation as to why that case pushed me to who I am today, where, I have, 12 guys I advocate for. I work in reentry. I started my own charity. I know a lot of rich people, and I wanted them to also see my passion. They saw me go nuts over, I had the other side of my family, my husband's side of my family is Italian. Big Italian family with a lot of people in it, and they're very loud and obnoxious, and a lot of them, lovely people. But they can be obnoxious. They know about it. You know, they have very strong opinions about what they know and what they've experienced in their life, right? And my father-in-law is also law enforcement. He was a lawyer, and I have family members that are also part of the government and have very specific ways of seeing the world that are likely not like mine, and that's okay. That's what America is about. I want people to be able to voice their opinions, and I'm not going to try to sway you, but I'm going to give you my reasoning behind it. If you see something in that you take away and that it changes your life, awesome. If it doesn't, that's your journey, not mine. That's the way I see it. I'm not trying to, there's too much of that happening, I think, in the country for, families breaking apart over, politics and, all this crazy shit that's happening. But I know what I was going to say is that when I started on the Kevin Keith case, my family genuinely, my mom was one, my family was one thing, but my husband's family was completely different. They couldn't understand why I was on this bandwagon, and they needed to see it. They needed to understand it. And now they're all advocates. Now they all rally behind it because people, I also, I have, I just have strong, I guess because I have a strong opinion on it, number one, but number two, because what I've seen, until you know what I've seen, you can't tell me I'm wrong until you get all the information. And I'm very willing, and I mean, obviously I did an 8-episode podcast on it, but it's hard for me not to continually talk about that case, especially when I was 2 feet into it, right? They didn't want to hear it anymore. They didn't want to hear it anymore. They would fight over it. But they would say to me, this is your journey. You could go, you're on this quest to get some guy out of prison. We're not. And that's a reckoning they had to deal with once they saw what I was actually doing. And now, as I'm on this journey, the other part of the Kevin Keith, who, by the way, Kevin Keith is still in prison to this day.
I want to talk to him.
Oh, he's the greatest. You would love Kevin. Kevin, I would let you have that conversation with Kevin because I don't do it justice. His way of seeing the world is inspiring. He teaches me something every time I speak to him. He's an incredible human being, and he does a lot of work inside of prison. He has a program that he created that's called Word Masters. That his thing is about helping the guys around him, including himself. Because what he realized is that when he went in front of parole boards, when it was available to him, he didn't know how to present himself. He didn't know these are lawyers. These are people that, and judges, how do I speak in front of it and not sound like I'm a thug, because that's what they're characterizing me as. How do I understand what's happening in front of me? How do I write letters to people that they're going to take me seriously? How do I stand in front of people? So he created this thing called Word Masters where they're reading from the Bible, but they get up and they do public speaking. So that these guys, and because these are all his yard mates, his bunk mates and whatever, he was seeing that they were having the same problem. They didn't know how to advocate for themselves. They didn't know how to speak. And so now he's franchised that in a bunch of prisons in Ohio, which is wonderful. I want to help him do that and expand it into more of a national setting. But anyway, I don't know what my end game is. All I know is that if I see something that I feel like I can fix, with Kevin, I saw something in that case that no one else could see. And I remember thinking, if we could just get this to the right people, they would have to let him out. My naivete, being naive at that point, if I could just get this to, who can I bring this to? And at that time, we were talking to a lot of people. I mean, I met from T.I. to Mary J. Blige to, Common. I mean, so many people that we went out to. And the story of Kim was really, it's kind of funny. The Kim Kardashian connection was that I was under contract at the time at Fremantle, which is in Burbank. And I was doing crime. I was their crime arm, if you could imagine. We were doing like little crime shows, and meanwhile they're doing like American Idol and all these other shows. But they were also doing Family Feud. They were doing the Family Feud franchise. And one of the producers would walk past my office, and I was that crazy person. I don't have it here, but my old office, I looked like a detective because I was doing the Kevin Keith case. So I had pictures of people with strings and, and police reports. I had a war room. Yeah. And he'd be like, what the fuck is happening in your office? We do game shows here. Like, what is this? And so I invited him in and told him about the case and got him really jazzed up about it. Like, I'm like, this is a documentary. I'm doing a documentary. This is where my head was. I have to get this case out to as many people as possible. He's innocent. I'm going to get him out, blah, 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 the whole thing. And he came back a couple of times and learned about the case. And one day he came in and he said, hey, Celebrity Family Feud is doing the Kardashians versus the Jenners, or the Wests versus the Jenners, because Kanye and Kim were still together at the time. And would you be okay if I mentioned this to Kim? And I'm like, sure. Yeah. Like it's never going to happen, right? Kind of thing. Like getting someone's attention like Kim would be really hard. And I was like, absolutely. Just, I'll send you material and you can talk to her about it. Never thinking it was going to happen. And I'll never forget, I got a phone call on a Friday night at my house. If you ever want to come over, I do pizza and a movie with my kids. And I'm usually about...
What kind of movies we talking?
We watch it all. I mean, you know what we watch? We watched... by the way, we saw Dune 2 last night. Go see it. So good. So good. Dune
Did you
2.
like the Marley movie? Have you seen it yet?
Which one?
The Marley movie. The Bob Marley movie.
No. My daughter wants to go see it. I'm supposed to go next weekend. The one, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go next week. You haven't seen it yet?
I've seen it.
Oh, you saw it. It's really good or no?
It's good. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's good.
Why is he saying that? Is he in it or something? Oh, okay.
No, I wish.
Oh.
They should have had me play Bob.
I was like,
why
is he saying that? Like,
Yeah.
my daughter really wants to see it next week. But I saw June last night. But we watch movies. It depends. We watched The Nutty Professor 2 weeks ago. I introduced her to Nutty
Always a
Professor.
classic.
So now she goes, Hercules.
Never.
But anyway, so this night we were eating pizza, and likely a full bottle of red wine could have happened, likely happened.
All right.
And it was probably around 10 o'clock at night, and my phone rings. It's a Friday night, and my kids are in bed at this time. I'm alone drinking a glass of wine. I remember being alone drinking a glass of wine. My phone rings, and it's an unknown number, which I never pick up. And I'm like, this is strange.
Note to self.
Right.
Don't ever call Lori.
No, and I never pick up an unknown number. And I did. I was like, who's calling me? I go, hi. And it happened to be Kim's, I forgot what her title was. But so she introduces herself, and she's in Miami with Kim at 2 Chainz's wedding. And she said, I swear, because it's like I was like on the Twilight Zone. I thought I was drunk. Like I thought I was dreaming. She's like, Kim really wants to meet you and talk about this case and blah blah blah. And I'm like, sure, And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I live in Calabasas. I can meet wherever you want. I can even come to the house if it's easier or whatever you need. I don't know. What do you say to someone, right? You're like an idiot.
Get that hot air balloon to fly me over the hill.
I was like, right. I have to get through the gate, but kind of thing. And we made a date to she's like, we'll be in touch. You can come over next week. And I remember clicking off the phone and going into my kid, who at the time, my son was probably 11 or so. I don't know, 11 or 12 years old. And he was sleeping, and I go, wake up! And he goes, what's wrong? I'm like, Kim Kardashian just called. I'm going to her house. And he's like,
you lying, roll over.
And I'm also slapping myself in the face going, did that just really happen, or am I just drunk? But no, it really did happen. And I went to her house about a week later and talked about the Kevin Keith case. And within hours, she was wanting to help. And, and again, I was looking for a giant megaphone, right? That's what I was talking about earlier in this conversation. The giant megaphone, in this world, that's the best way I can kind of give anybody watching or listening to this an idea of how important this is. Kim Kardashian, I don't know what her numbers are, her statistical numbers on like Instagram, let's just say. But her platform, her followers, she's got more followers than some small countries have people.
Right.
So she's the queen of her own country.
Right.
And those people are all around the world. And they're megaphones for her. That's how powerful her brand is.
And the crazy thing about Kim, I studied her.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I sat down, I was like, all right, let me check out what's going on. So I seen where she started, read up on her dad, read up on her mom. Mom's if I could sit down and learn hustling from her mama, I would sit down and learn from her mama.
You should watch her masterclass. It's incredible.
No, I want to learn from her. I want the unedited. I want to give her a shot of Hennessy and say, "Now let's talk. Show me. Just give me the whole get down."
I hear she's lovely.
But just studying and then watching how she was shadowing people.
Yeah.
How she was like, all right, she set out a plan and she said, I'm not going to stop and I'm going to get this shit done.
Yeah.
And then when she started doing the legal stuff, I kind of questioned that. Because I was like, hold on, this ain't your field right here. Because you see a lot of people that don't want to do this. I'm like, man, nah. And us, the people that's in there or the people that's like, all right, all we doing is like, show us something. Mm-hmm. Show me something. I want to see something. Show me something. Or is this another gimmick or anything like that? Show me something. Because there's a lot of copycats that's doing stuff like really bust a move.
Yeah.
My biggest person that I seen that was doing stuff was Nipsey.
Yeah.
Like he's like our only voice, to be honest. He was the only voice that was able to do it. He was the only person that was teamed up with Karen Bass before everybody started.
Right.
Everybody that want to shoot Karen Bass down and all that, she was the only person that had Nipsey Hussle up there talking about giving formerly incarcerated jobs. Not basic ass jobs of, no offense to the people that's mopping floors, but jobs where you're actually your own boss and you have companies. He was the only one that she was working with to do that type of stuff and the work that he was doing. So after he died, everybody's like, man, we skeptic. We want to know. LA doesn't have that anymore. Like,
yeah.
You do something big and you die, they find you somewhere overdose, or they find out you embezzled some millions worth of dollars and ran off somewhere. Right. So it's like, who do we believe?
Who do you believe, right? Yeah, Kim is one of the most impressive people I've ever met. I believe that the passion and the legal part of Kim's background obviously comes from her upbringing and her dad, but she realized very early that her platform could do good. And once she got a taste of that sense of giving someone their freedom, I think she could never look back. It's a very similar trajectory, different from mine, but similar in that when you know something, you can't unknow it. And she's not the type of person that can just go a little bit into something, dip their toe. My sense with Kim in the time that I worked with her is that she goes full-fledged into all of it. Her personality doesn't allow her not to. She's just that girl. She's probably the hardest working human being I've ever met. I don't know all of you very well, but that's the truth. And for myself, I just don't know where she finds hours in the day. I could send her a message and she responds to me, even when she's got 4 children, how many businesses, she's flying all over the world, she's helping people get out of prison, she's putting, time and effort into becoming a lawyer so that she can also be knowledgeable when she walks into the rooms and understand what it is she's advocating for. Will she ever be a barred attorney? I don't know. Does it matter?
Of course. We won the questionerships in about 2-3 years in a row. It was originally a farmland with a lot of produce and stuff that came out of it. It's named after a white guy named, I think, James Compton or something like that. And there's just a lot of produce, equestrianship things. There's
cool.
You just walk around and you just see horses.
Horse country.
People just riding horses in the street.
In the middle of the street.
Yeah. They did a national walk where it was like over 2,000 horseback riders that went on to the protest at the Compton courthouse. Just nothing but horses out there. Mm-hmm. That's cool. Yeah. Are we good?
I'm trying to think if I like horses or not. Going back to my problem with the animal kingdom.
They give you a natural respect for animals. Where people lose respect for them, they give you a natural respect.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you can't push a horse.
No.
And when a horse feels like walking, it's going to walk.
Right.
So you have to really be in tune with yourself and how to move your body. And,
you're right.
Without just talking and the animal listens.
No, I know. It's I have a niece that is an equestrian, and and I'm like, why am I afraid of horse? I guess I'm not afraid of horse.
It was that talking horse. What's that talking horse?
Oh, Miss Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's freaky.
See?
It's not for me.
That's funny.
It's just not for me.
It's freaky.
It's just not for me. I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's
so
a city
you don't
girl.
like Frenchies then?
I'm sorry, Frenchie Bulldogs?
Yeah. They're weird, huh? See? Is that, see? Oh,
it's,
yeah.
No.
It's the breathing and
No, I have friends that have them and I love them. The only thing about a Frenchie is that sound they make.
It's the breathing.
I know. Well, they have like that piggy sound that, and then they have, I'm giving you sound effects. That's for you, okay? That's for you. And then there's their bark is strange to me, but they're very, I love
real
all dogs.
whiny. Yeah.
They're a little whiny. I can't, I love all dogs. I can't go against them.
Wait till I show her my profile of all the dogs, the rescues.
Oh, believe me, I might take one home, so don't show it to me. But so what I was talking about is, so after the whole Kevin Keith thing and the Spotify podcast, that launched the podcast launched in October of 22, I think it came out. And obviously it was just a flood. As soon as, I guess it was right when Kim started doing press and my name became attached to hers in that way, I started getting flooded with a lot of guys reaching out to me, mostly guys. I think I've only had a few women. And I used to think that Kevin Keith was a unicorn. Right? Again, think about where I came from. Mm-hmm. My experience has been middle-class America, Long Island, New York, with a law enforcement father. So I had no idea what I was tapping myself into. I had no idea, but I really thought that Kevin was a unicorn. And when I started to see these other stories and started acknowledging what was happening and working with attorneys and other advocates, I couldn't imagine there was so much work to be done. There was so many people I wanted to help. There was a guy that was on death row, Rubio Gutierrez. He was on death row. I think it was Texas. And I remember sitting at the beach one day with my kids, and the call came in from, I think it was Rodney Reed's brother. And he called me and he said, "Lori, I need your help. This guy has, he's going to be executed on like a Tuesday." I think it was Saturday. And I'm like, okay, what's happening? He's like, "This guy has an innocence claim, gives me like a very, I'm like, send me all the information. I'll get right to work on it. Let's see what we can do." And it was Saturday. And I remember Ethan, my son, saying, "But Mom, that's not enough time. He's going to be executed on Tuesday. How are you going to do it tomorrow, Sunday?" I'm like, he's still alive, And the mentality of believing that you can get something done, even with a small amount of time. And we did. Rubio Gutierrez got a stay of execution. And with a lot of help from a lot of advocates, including Kim. But, for the government that actually gave him the stay. Right. But realizing how much work that needed to be done. And then I actually did a project for Discovery Plus called Prison Detox. There was this amazing story of a small town sheriff in a very small town called DeQueen, Arkansas, which is about an hour and a half north, I think, west of Texarkana. Tiny little town, one stoplight. And he had this, and everybody grew up there. Everybody grew up there and stayed there. So it was like a multi-generational town. Nobody really left. And so what he was seeing was this influx of methamphetamine into his area. He was the town sheriff, and he grew up there. And so he was watching people come in and out of his jail for low-level drug crimes. They would get it, they would offend, they would go to jail for 90 days, and then they'd go out and they'd reoffend and come right back. It was this revolving door, and they knew, they went to high school with him. They knew his brother, they knew his sister. I dated her, I know your mother, whatever it might be. These were all people that he knew. So he realized, he said, but wait a minute, just by sending them out, they're just going back to the same life. We're not fixing anything. This is not the way law enforcement is supposed to run, right? Small town. By the way, during pandemic, they didn't even believe the pandemic existed when I got there.
Oh.
This is the kind of place I'm talking about. Okay? Oh. And this sheriff,
it's fake news.
His name is Robert Gentry, and he's incredible. He and Chris Walcott are these two incredible human beings that really saw human beings for being human beings and not being animals in a cage, right? And he said, what if we created, instead of putting them in jail for 90 days and doing nothing, what if we made it a rehab? What if we made a 90-day rehab where we give them the tools they need to stay focused on their sobriety? Then when we let them out, we give them 9 months of aftercare where we track them and we give them a place to be and the tools necessary to stay away from the people that are going to get them back into the same place they're going to go. Let's give them the tools that they need to be successful. And what if at the end of that year, 3 months in, 9 months out, we say if you do it, at the end, if you stay sober and you don't reoffend and you do all this, these classes and stuff, we expunge your record. We clean it. So you're able to get a job and you're able to become that person that we know you are inside before the addiction got to you. And he has a 70, or I think over an 80% success rate. This is a small town sheriff thinking big, being progressive. So we did a show there called Prison Detox for Discovery Plus, where we documented that for Discovery Plus. And that's what got me into the reentry, low-level drug crime world. And at the end of 22, knowing where I am with a megaphone, with people with larger megaphones in Hollywood, working in television, I said I have a responsibility. I've been given a responsibility to spread the word. So I created a 501c3 called Stolen Voices, which in my mind has 3 pillars: wrongful conviction, working on reentry project, including the photo ID that I'm really passionate about doing, low-level drug crimes inside of that, because I believe in Robert Gentry's plan and helping the addicted become not addicted to get them before you put them back on the street. And then the other side that I saw, and the third pillar, is family assistance, because when one person goes to jail, the entire family goes to jail with them. And I've seen people mortgage everything they own, especially with a wrongful conviction case. They will go to great lengths to go bankrupt to prove their family members' wrongful conviction, that they were innocent.
And people spend a lot of money on bullshit lawyers.
And then what happens? They lose because the system is rigged against them, and that family goes into poverty. That person's still in prison, and now you've corrupted an entire generation of people.
And it starts all over again.
So that's what Stolen Voices is. It bans wrongful conviction attorneys from a lot of different law firms around the country now, and advocates. We also partnered, you mentioned Chris Hawthorne. We partnered with Loyola Marymount University and Loyola Law School. We're doing a clinic. So, my sense is that, again, creating the megaphone, if we can get these stories out there, if people knew just what you're doing right now, by exposing people to the truth about life in prison, about being incarcerated, being formerly incarcerated, what it feels like to go through the reentry process, what it feels like to be wrongfully convicted, what it feels like to be on death row, right? All of these things, they're storytelling. That's how we communicate to the public. Well, in post-conviction, that's essential, right? So what I want to do is teach lawyers who are coming out and passionate about the post-conviction space to understand to work with the media. Because in a social media world where Adnan Syed is on Serial Podcast, or The Story of Kevin Keith for Spotify, or Stephen Avery on Making a Murderer, they have become household names because their cases are ridiculous, but they are not unicorns.
Right.
That's why the Innocence Files on Netflix is so popular, right? And or Jason Flom's Wrongful Conviction podcast. Those stories are essential to bringing the story. What actually happened that night where someone lost their life, but you didn't do it?
Right.
What happened that night?
Who's hiding something? Who's
Right.
covering up something, and why?
Tell me the story of why I should believe your innocence. Tell me the story. Now, if we could create those stories and put them out there, right, and allow people to advocate for our brothers and sisters who are going to prison wrongfully, or even if it's a low-level drug crime, what Robert Gentry is doing, tell those stories. Why? Because that's what makes change. So that's what Stolen Voices. We're giving the voices back to the people they were stolen from. Tell your story. Go out there. Make the change. I don't believe that, or I firmly believe, I'll say this, that nothing in your life was not by design. You were meant to be sitting here. You were meant to be doing exactly what you're doing. I don't know why God chose you for the path that he put you on, because some people have really shitty paths that they have to go to get to the place where they feel like it's like worthy, right? Where, okay, now I understand it. I didn't have that path. I had a very different path. But that's the path that was chosen for you. There's no mistake about it for me.
It's the walk. You gotta. I mean, one of my biggest inspirations was that movie, Australia.
Yeah, the walk.
And
yeah.
remember the little boy? He was like, "Man, me not white man, me no black man, me just creamy." Yeah, exactly.
Creamy is great.
He said, "Come on," his grandpa told
Yeah.
him, "We're gonna go on a walkabout."
Yeah.
He made him take off his shoes, and that's just. Man, me and Lamont talked about this the other day, and as mad as we get, because I get upset, I know he gets upset. You sitting in prison for something you didn't do. You're sitting in one of the worst prisons in the state of California.
Yeah.
And within the next 5 minutes, this man could be dead.
Yeah.
For something that he didn't do in there.
Yeah.
And I tell him, just look at the extremes that it took. Look at the extremes that it took for me to turn my life around.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we need that. People only change when they hit rock bottom.
That's true.
You know, and I had to have everything stripped, because I know for a fact that if I didn't come to jail, I'd be a statistic just like my father is, who's a cold case.
Yeah. Wow.
And just till last year, I outlived my father, who lived to the age of 32.
Wow.
You know, so
That's hard to. Yeah.
we have to walk through the fire, and it's only
Right.
I said God testing you. He want to see how much. I want to see how much you can, because if you can survive this, and you can survive all these obstacles that I have in place without breaking, without selling your soul for a jelly roll, without taking these little bullshit chump change deals, without going getting on your knees begging these people who just gonna take advantage of you. You can stay this path and stay who you are
Yeah.
and loyal to you into the small knit circle that you have. Don't worry about it. I got you.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta have blind faith.
You have to have blind faith.
So I'm just, let's do it. As long
Yeah.
as I'm not doing anything wrong and I'm doing it right, and I know wholeheartedly that I'm giving my all, and
Right.
the people look at the people we got. We got NYU graduate. I call him Little Spielberg. That's my guy. We got Vicente. I came up with the idea, said, hey man, let's do a docuseries on Compton and the culture out there. I didn't have anybody to call. So I was like, man, let me call my guy. He said, come on, let's do it. And I'm learning from them as I go along, and then they're learning, because they're like, we've never seen a side of the city, or we didn't know that this happened. And it's exposing the guys out there to, hey, you don't have to go work with these shiesty ass producers. You got a dude right here that you can actually, here, we can pay for this in advance. So you give them the platform to be like, hey, I got options now.
Yeah.
To whereas you didn't have options before. I don't have to go and sell, cocaine and nothing like that. I look at Roddy Ricch and those guys like, man, like look at that dude in prison. It's a 16-year-old dude riding through Compton right now in a Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
Okay, it's material, but just look at that. I mean, if he has money to do that, most likely he's gonna have his mom in a better place. His kids are gonna be in a better place. So
that's right.
If we can do that and just shine the light and find these megaphones and gyro chopters, whatever they are, like
I mean,
that's
you keep
the whole
talking
point.
about it. That's and it is part of the legal strategy now in post-conviction. In pre-conviction, lawyers are taught never to talk to the media. Why? Because it could really hurt your case. But on post-conviction, when now you have to change the narrative to what happened because you got a fair trial at court, right? If you went in front of a jury, you had a jury of your peers, right? Were they really a jury of your peers? No. And those real stories have to come through in order to change the minds of the people that think they know what happened. Because there's always another narrative. I'm watching the Scott Peterson case right now again because the Innocence Project just took up Scott's case, and when I first heard it, I was like, why, right? Because I only know what the media taught me about Scott Peterson, Lacey Peterson, beautiful girl who gets thrown overboard in the San Francisco Bay with a pregnant woman. It was horrible. The most horrific thing. I think it was actually on Christmas that murder happened, right? It's just a horrible, horrible story. Oh, and he had, by the way, a blonde girlfriend. It was like the typical, like, what an asshole, when you see it on the news. But for the Innocence Project to take it, I was like, there's something more to the story. Because they don't just take cases.
And we went in there and looked at their lab, the machinery. I'm nosy. Like you came in, I'm walking all around the office, I'm looking at people's office. I want to see who in here. I don't know what the hell might happen next. And then I want to know, like, is it lived in? Is it something where people actually
come in here? Is it like a stage? But that's the thing. It's like you have to change the narrative around cases because people only get what they think they know based off of what they heard in the news or what they read about. And by the way, what's spoon-fed to you in the news, because everybody knows you got an algorithm on your TikTok or on your social media, so you're getting spoon-fed what you want to hear. So how do you get out of the algorithm and actually hear what's truthfully happening around the world? Read the
transcripts, dig deeper, don't take it for face value.
Right.
And
a
guy, I'm going to ask this to the world. I want people to go and look at this. I want does anybody out there know who and where the longest political held prisoner was?
The longest
in the United States.
Political held?
Political held prisoner in the United States.
All right, someone's Googling that.
They'll Google. That man, he knows. But that man was Rochelle McGee. And he was housed in the state of California. He had been to the parole board 18 times. He was close to 70, 80 years old when he got out of prison.
Oh, I do. Then the McGee case, yes.
Nobody knows about that. Nobody knows.
He was like 80, right?
80, couldn't even walk.
Yeah.
Had a tube sticking out of his neck.
Yeah.
All because he was in the van going to court and all the things happened that transpired with the George Jackson thing.
He was.
But people look at it, they say
the McGee case, yeah.
COs hated me. Oh, he did this, he did that. They were on my profile. I said, look, is it back in the courts? Because your job is just to be there and be a correctional officer. It's not your job to be a DA or anything outside of that.
Yeah.
But really look at it. If I'm a man that knows I'm innocent and you give me an opportunity to go free,
bye.
You think I'm not going to take it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what if he would have got out when he tried fighting for his freedom, which they granted him over 40 years later?
Yeah.
He would have been free and not been stuck in prison with all that turmoil and seeing all the horrific things that he's seen.
Awful.
So it's two sides of every story, and man.
Absolutely.
The biggest thing that I learned from the guys in there, that I learned the legal shit that I'm happy for, is that always pay attention to what enter a courtroom with clean hands mean. Go back to the basics. If there's any type of wrong, faulty stuff in there, is the violations, all that, that's unclean hands. Something is wrong.
Something's wrong, yeah.
When we asked the cop, before we wrap it up, we asked the cop, the Rampart cop, for example, We had the actual cop that went to prison for that. And people ask me, why would you interview that man? He went and did this. He stole this. He shot people. He did this. He's over 50% of his paperwork was corrupt. If I didn't ask him, would you be educated?
Right. How would you know?
If I didn't ask him, all you would think was what you seen on Training Day, a movie, where it's just that little small. But if we dig into details and you ask this man why he did what he did, why did he turn rogue? It's the same reason why men in the military turn rogue. It's the same reason why guys go and join the gangs and do the things that they do. And I asked him, he said, because I felt betrayed by the people that I cared about the most. He said, because, and then he also said, I got shot 2 times and they cared for me physically, getting out there, getting their money, then they cared for me mentally.
Yeah.
And when I found out they didn't give a fuck, that's when I did.
That was that. Yeah, it's
classic rule.
Snapped.
Classic rule.
Yeah.
So before we wrap it up, we need to get a date where we can get you down there to Compton. We'll set that up.
Tell me when.
And what can we look for next? And most of all, we need to do some teaming up. I want to build I want to be part of the Megatron that's being built. I want to that's the wrong one. Optimus Prime.
Optimus Prime.
Yeah. We're trying to be a part of the Optimus Prime. We want to build this giant.
We already are linked. I don't ever see advocacy as competition. I try to work with as many groups as I can. And I need the help. We need the help. That's how much work needs to be done, and we need the voices. So, I'm going to continue to build Stolen Voices as much as I can, get a lot of people to rally behind it. Like I said, there's a lot of law firms now that are offering pro bono work for innocence cases. Pierre Rushing, who I spoke about before, we were able to get him pro bono work through an amazing attorney, Jordan Grotzinger from Greenberg Traurig here in LA. Mm-hmm. I mean, his family could never afford what Jordan has been giving him. And now, in that case, they're the only witness, the high guy that said red baseball cap, gray car, black guy, he recanted. We have a recantation from the only witness. There is no case against Pierre Rushing right now in the state of California.
So why is he...
Hashtag, what about Pierre Rushing? Now you understand.
Oh, she hit him with the bada bing. I see what's going on.
That's Pamela Price's problem. You cannot run on criminal justice reform platforms, have an innocence case staring in your face with some of the biggest advocates in the country backing it. And you're going to turn around and say, well, not sure. What are you not sure about? And by the way, talking about CDCR, here's a kid, right? Pierre Rushing. I use the word kid. He's not a kid. He's just younger than me. Came off the streets of Oakland. Had an entire career ahead of him in music. Legitimately had.
Let me check this dude out. I hear you. I didn't see who he is.
Pierre Rushing. And he gets locked up on a crime he didn't commit. And I told you about the 3:15 in the morning. I mean, really heinous stuff in his case. And he goes to prison, and he has a record of defending himself in prison. Right? Because prison.
That's what I find kind of strange. So I noticed that there's been men that have gotten out before, and the prison stuff they wipe clean.
Well, I'm not sure about, I don't know many of those cases, but I think a lot of people look for, he might be innocent, but in prison he has a really bad CDCR record. He's been in the hole for 4 or 5 times or whatever. If you knew Pierre Rushing, here's a guy that came literally from the streets. You wrongfully convicted him and put him in prison with a bunch of people who are, the majority of them are rightly convicted. And now he is like I said, he's a big pain in the ass. He is voicing that he's not supposed to be there. Do prisoners want to hear that? No. So he's on a really tough yard up in Salinas, and he's just gotten himself into a place where he has to project himself. Now he's much better. He's a little bit more controlled. He's been in for a long time. He knows it. But at the beginning, he didn't. People in the government will say, well, can't support him. The CDCR record isn't clean. That's trash. So he's defending himself in a place, he's a caged animal now, in a place he doesn't belong, with a bunch of people who want to kill him, and you want him not to defend himself?
No, that doesn't make sense.
None of it makes sense to me. And I'm not going to advocate for you because even though you're innocent, you got into a fight on the yard? That's some trash.
I mean, I always compare that, especially. You can have people watch a baseball game.
Yeah.
And watch grown-ass men have a full-blown riot. 30, these dudes swole, jacked up, busting each other upside the head. And all of America goes, bravo. But a man, possibly on a prison yard, around people that he doesn't know, supposedly society's worse in one boiling pot, and you expect them not to defend themselves?
Right. Be an angel?
So somebody's supposed to hit me, and I'm supposed to lay on the ground and just let it happen.
That's exactly what he said.
I'm supposed to get stomped on, and I'm supposed to...
Do you know what it's like
for the people out there? I'm advocating for this man right there. If you've never been on the ground and had 30 men stomping on your head, if you've never been stabbed, if you've never been able to see that type of amount of violence in your life, it's one thing to see somebody get shot. But it's another thing to see a man take another person's life with a handcrafted weapon and just watch him kill him, and the gun towers don't do anything until it's over. I mean, if the tower's going to protect me, all right, but I know you're not here to protect me. You're here to stop it when the violence is done. That's all it is. That's right. And that's something that he has to live with every day.
Every day.
You don't know when your door is going to open up. People can run in there and do something to you. You don't know how many people who may think that you have done this and now you're protecting yourself over that. You don't know any of that, because until that door opens up and he's out here on the streets, the game is still on. And that game is, when in the jungle, you play with the rest of the animals. Period. So for people in there going through the stuff, no, you have to fight. It could be worse. He could be in YA where you really have to fight, where there's sexual crimes going on every damn day. That's why they closed it up. So I don't like that. Yeah. You put him in that predicament. Remember, Judge.
Yeah.
You put him there.
You put him there.
You asked for that.
Yeah. And you know what? I have I've never been in prison. I've never lived prison. You can see it in his demeanor as a human being. The amount of just the dignity that sits on his soul. It
takes a lot from you, like people.
Yeah.
And then when you get out here, Mr. Russian, remember this. Society is not rehabilitated. And that's something that you may get out. When you do get out, I'll say this. When you do get out, word to Allah, they're not ready for you, bro. Nobody's out here ready. It's a lot of faking. It's a lot of phonies. It's a lot of people that told you stuff while you was sitting in there, and you're going to get out and you're going to walk into their household and you're going to see them sitting there doing that. You're going to see the wasted time that people told you that they invested in you, but they really didn't invest. It was just cap. You're going to see all that. You're going to see the world out here, and it's horrible to see it. But hold on to what you learned in there, because that's going to help you make it out here. All my best friends are in prison, or they dead, or they getting out of prison or fighting. You know, don't let it break you. Don't let these people break you. Don't let the system break you. It's a reason. It's a reason. You could have died when you was out here, and this could have been God putting you away, putting you on the shelf. I need my trophy to get put up for something. Let me just shine you up real quick. Let me teach you about patience. She said it herself. You was wild at first, but you had to go through that patience. You had to get that sabr. You had to fight yourself. The biggest fight we all will ever have in our life is the battle that we have with ourselves. So fight yourself. Everybody else, don't even worry about that. You got to fight a man on the yard, fight him, but only match that energy. Because first time you hit a dude and you hit him where you're supposed to be hit, everybody else gonna sit down, because not everybody's a leader. So if you fighting leaders, that's because you a leader, bro, and they know who to pick on, man. So once you get out of that situation, come out here, man. Let's eat. Let's really get to work. I'm looking for people to work. We short-handed and we need to work, and we hungry. It will never stop. No man is a grown man either. As long as you evolve and you learn something new every day, it's constant evolution. Constant evolution. So it's all love, bro. I know where you at. I was in Corcoran, you in Salinas, you in the hot spot. You in the middle of the hill. So once you get out of there, holla. Look me up on the thing. I want to give me my
me.
For real. And I got major love for the Bay. They know that. So, to wrap this up, because I know you're a very busy lady, I really, really appreciate it. Mr. Fab, a person that we interviewed when we was up there in San Francisco, we just aired one of his aired his episode. He gave us a title, and it was Unusual Alliances. You gotta think
that.
You gotta think outside the box. You gotta meet people that you wouldn't necessarily ever meet.
Right.
And one way of doing that is the same way that you did it with your family. No matter what you say, I'm gonna throw this shit in your face.
Right.
You don't gotta like it. You don't gotta take it down, but you're gonna see it.
Yeah.
And then you also said you got 20,000 people that follow you. All it takes is one person out of that 20,000 to shake this shit up.
That's true.
And that's all we're trying to do.
Right.
I really appreciate it.
I love the unusual alliances. I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think that's a great phrase.
For real.
That's the way the world should work. If only we could actually be unusual alliances instead of the usual alliance.
Oh, we are.
Right? But I love that. I think it's great. I appreciate what you're doing. And remember, telling the stories is what creates tolerance. That's what creates understanding. And that's what allows people to say, hey, wait a minute. I run a big box store. I'm going to create a program where I'm going to bring in people to give them jobs with dignity, where they're not working in the back in the ice chipper machine. Let's give them all a chance to rehabilitate and become part of society. Or a lawyer that's going to work pro bono for someone because they believe in the human condition, that you're not defined by your last, worst thing that you've done. There are people out there that actually want to help. They will help. But we have to get those stories to them, right. And peer rushing is a great example of that because Jordan Grotzinger was on a podcast, just like what we're doing right now, talking about peer rushing's case. Jordan heard it, came aboard, free lawyer. He's going to get him out.
That's how you got to do it.
We're going to walk him out of prison. It's going to happen. I know it is. And his job, and what I told you before, again, I don't know why God chose you for the path. I don't understand it. I never could. The only thing that I can imagine that it's for is for your story to change other people's lives. You're doing it. Pierre's going to do it. Kevin Keith has already done it in his own way. Right. So that's what it is. It's a fucked up way of getting there, but same for me, Right. Same for me. Maybe my job is to just show my family what is possible and what's in. And listen, I have 2 children who are white Calabasas kids. They are strong civil rights advocates, and they always will be. My daughter plays competitive softball, number 42.
When you get a chance, tell them to look up where the song Strange Fruit came from.
Strange Fruit? Okay.
Do you know where it came from?
No.
Strange fruit, floating in the breeze, strange fruit hanging in the wind. So it was a song written by a Jewish man. And Maya Angelou sung it as a song of protest. And the song Strange Fruit is a depiction of black men and women hanging in the trees, swaying in the winds. And their blood drips and stains the leaves. So it's a song of protest. And I was like, well, what's the name that we have?
That's beautiful.
Strangest Fruit Podcast.
Strangest Fruit.
And so,
yeah. Since
we have all the Instagram people out here.
That's super cool.
This is something that I want the Instagram people will end this with. It's real cool. And you said about stories. So I seen a post. That's why it's funny. The algorithm, Instagram. I'm pretty sure my phone listening right now is going to come up with all type of topics and shit.
Oh, of course. You're going to get a lot of Kim Kardashian later.
And that's funny. I'll tell you about that later. But I was looking at a post that went up, and it said, if Maya Angelou would have died at 20, she would have died a prostitute and a single mother. And if Malcolm X would have died at 20, he would have died as, Detroit Red, a woman beater, and a scammer. If they would have both died at 20, nobody would have known their story. Right. So since they did live, let's take time to realize that everybody has a story to tell.
Amen.
So
Amen.
Just something to wrap that up with.
That's a good way to wrap a podcast.
Right. I thank you. I appreciate it. Come on, we got it's National Hugs for Thugs Month.
Hugs for Thugs.
Yeah, Hugs for Thugs. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's so good to hear your story.